Hello and welcome to Bonktable. We have been talking, and
Yeah,
now we're just gonna get going. I'm always stressed, especially with you guys. So, for people we got today, I have Cassandra, my wonderful co-host.
Hi.
Perfect. We have third place LVO winner Ben.
That's not winning, but yes, hi.
Second place LVO winner Karl.
I would have beaten Bryan.
And first place LVO Supreme winner, champion of everything, new number one player in all of North America, Bryan.
I can't argue that.
See?
From what anybody has said here. Sadly.
So, we figured out what the heck we're going to talk about today. It's going to be about these three wonderful gentlemen's time at LVO. We're going to ask them a couple questions, how their rounds went, thoughts on the whole event and everything like that. Maybe a bit about the venue. Bryan, as our supreme guest emperor of North America, has chosen the barrage special rule for our rule of the week today. And
I just want to say, in terms of being a nuisance to you, this is probably the only thing that hangs with making us do Inspire as a special rule. So as a rule of the week. So I really got to tip my hat.
I mean, you put me on the spot for it. Now I'm searching through my head, and I was like, "What's relevant in my list that I was just playing?" Well, I got a lot of barrage everywhere. Let's talk about that.
Eventually, we're gonna get through them all, and then it's like rule of the week's just gonna go away.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
No, they'll have rolled out new special rules by then.
That's true.
I hope, hopefully, maybe we'll have to talk about spells.
New special rules are always in development, probably.
Sure.
Maybe they'll have, hey, check this out. What if they come up with discard events?
I don't want to think about that.
Nah.
God. I don't know what that... Oh, God.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely...
cow tools all over again.
Just being able to mess with your opponent's stack is fun and interactive gameplay. I really don't see what the problem here is.
I've heard that you should just shuffle your deck at the start of your turn.
I just
as a Drake player, yeah.
You should be able to make something that's mechanically a blue deck in Conquest.
Yeah, it's called Play Spires.
Imagine if you could mill.
Oh my god. Well, you can.
That
you
is
just kill
called
your
playing
opponent's...
Spires.
Yeah. You just kill your opponent's stuff and then they have to mill cards.
That's true.
It's true, yeah.
See, you're doing it. You already are the blue player.
Yeah, and when their deck runs out of cards, you usually beat them.
Yeah. If you can't draw a card and there's no more turns, you lose.
I go over there playing it to Ben, being like, "Why haven't I won this game? He has nothing left on the field."
I had an Avatara stand.
Oh, okay, silly me. Silly me.
I won that game by 40, though.
Our PB News is going to be chatting with these three guys about Worlds and their views and opinions upon it. Cassandra and I kind of talked to Garrett from Sown Geekery about our thoughts on Worlds. These guys, I heard, got to talk to one of the devs about it, so they'll probably have better insight than we do. So it's good for the listener. So let's start there with Worlds. Bryan, what do you think? Are you going to attend Worlds?
We'll see how it goes. I'm not really too concerned about it one way or another. I'm not trying particularly hard. I know that's kind of shitty given what just happened with the result there, but I also know the competition and kind of the amount of planning. And as we were talking about before, it feels so rushed the way it's been rolled out right now, a really severe case of running before you could walk, especially with the 4-round requirement all over the place. That I don't know. I'm not particularly worried about it one way or another. I'm more than happy to see what the world rankings are at the end of all this. And if my name's all the way up there, then I don't end up going anyway. I mean, that's plenty of victory enough for me.
You qualified? No, it's a pretty good spot to be.
Yeah,
there's a bunch going on here. I won't really dig too deep into the document because we got to talk about LVO with you guys, and that's going to be quite a bit of what we got to chat about. But yeah, the 4-round thing and then the short time frame is kind of a big hindrance to myself personally, because for me to go to events, I got to plan out usually 2 to 3 months in advance to figure out which ones I can hit, and it's usually I got to make concessions as well. So, Karl, your thoughts on Worlds? You gonna try and attend?
I would like to try to get an invite and then kind of work from there. I think it's doable for me to get out there, but it's more like one of those, it'd be just nice to say that I did. I think all things considered, like after talking to Stavros especially, I understand why it has to be the way it is, but also like it's the 4-round events. Like you say it's a 4-round event, you'll get 5 people. You say it's a 3-round, you'll get 20. It'll be hard for a lot of local communities to actually get that many people. I think I would like it more if you could just register like your address on the Living World and then hit play as many Worlds tournaments as you want, and that's just where you're coming from. And that's like if the spots went out to the people with the top Worlds points, I understand that it can't be that way, but it does feel a little like I know that they have their training wheels on, and I think it'll just continue to improve because they do consistently do that as a company.
Yeah, and I've seen that a lot from them, and they seem to take feedback also really well. What's nice to hear and also see from them.
Yeah.
Okay, Ben, we know you want to go to Worlds. Tell us your plan.
I do.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, my plan is play in 3 major events and play in as many World Community events as I can get my hands on. And presumably try to win all of them, and sometimes get 3rd, which is not winning.
Yeah. But you are doing well. You are still scoring those points.
I mean, I have the most points in my region because nobody else from my region went to LVO, so I have a pretty good lead.
I have the 2nd most points in my region.
Who has the first most points in your region, Karl?
Bryan.
Oh.
Hi. Hello. Yeah. we're both in the Midwest, or whatever. What is that? Region 1, 2? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. And poor Jeff.
Yeah. That would. Yeah, Jeff did not have the best time at Worlds, which makes me sad because his list was spicy enough. And Jeff is obviously such a good player that it should have gone a little bit better, but we'll get into all that.
You should only feel bad because you made 10 saves on initiates, and that's the reason he didn't get you.
That was spicy. That was spicy.
Oh, it's good to hear. So what are okay, here, how about this? So guys, what are some like what's kind of your big one positive thing about Worlds that you think PB is currently doing well with it? Bryan, you first.
I mean, I just like that it exists. Like we were saying before, and Karl starts talking about, like it gives a nice a little bit of excitement for the community and a target, for everyone kind of set towards. And even if they, your average schmo doesn't think that they're going to be making it to Worlds, it is something fun to watch, especially in Conquest. It's such a small community that you can attach yourself to some names and see how they progress on their way to it. So I do like just its very existence and the idea of it. Conquest also being just a wonderful balanced competitive game. Generally speaking, I think if there was any game that could actually get away with it this early on in its development, it's this one. So I like this direction.
No, that's good. Karl, how about you?
Yeah, so honestly, I'll just, Bryan kind of hit the big picture there, so I'll just go personal. I wouldn't have gone to LVO if I wasn't trying to go to Worlds, and that was probably the most fun I've ever had at a con, just in general, and that was with 2 full days dedicated to travel. It was just an awesome weekend, and I was just thinking, I would not have done that if I wasn't trying to go to Worlds, and I know that none of the guys except Dan that I was having a blast with would have been there either if it wasn't for Worlds, so.
See, it's already working, bringing people together.
Yeah.
Ben, yourself?
I mean, I really hope that Stavros was right, and the communities can put together these World Community events and really build them up to get more of those events, because I'm willing to travel 4 to 6 hours to play. I like playing Conquest. I will go play 4-round tournaments. I'm really excited. I think it pushes the game in the right direction, and I got to admit, a beach tournament in Hios, that's a bit of a draw. It's a bit of a draw, and I think they chose a really good location, and it's tough to get to, which is something we've discussed. And I mean, if I go this year, I probably won't be going again because I don't think I can justify going to Greece every year. But I really want to be part of it, and I'm just really excited that they put it together.
No, it's really good. I'm not gonna lie, because I, like Bryan said, for the like, you kind of follow people who are going or are going that road, or like, the road to Chios. My number one pick to go would be Karl, because I love Vegeta, and Karl's like the Vegeta of the competent group because he's number 2, and so I would really like.
Shit.
Yeah.
Hey, he's great, and so I kind of want to see Karl go. That's my bets.
Someone take.
I mean,
Karl
we
picture.
say that, but like, I think we'll get a ton of agreement. Like, Bryan and I basically play on exactly the same level, and there's nobody else that I play where I'm like, okay, this actually comes down to the list that we're running.
See,
Yeah.
So I believe in you, Underdog Story.
Honestly, I know Jeff's not here, but all 4 of us, our games go either way. Next week's game, you're gonna get to see, what happens with a little bit of extra luck from Jeff. He gets a little lucky into me, but it turns real hard, and it doesn't take a lot. And all 4 of us, like, when we play games, it can go anybody's way.
So my next question: are all 4 of you going to Adepticon?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ah, sweet. Then I'll see you there. You guys will be receiving Bonktable swag.
Hey.
And glue it onto your chests. Probably not.
I hope you just hand us all watermelons.
Well,
Yeah, the fucking watermelon.
Well, I'm bringing you guys local beer, so you guys get to drink that, and then I'm also bringing you Bonktable swag, so you guys.
Dress like Gallagher and give them watermelons.
I can just. Oh my god! You can't bring watermelons across the border.
Well, you just buy them there. Like,
Yeah,
it's
but it's
not
not the
like
same.
they
We
only have
have
watermelons in Canada.
Yeah.
Is this
Fucking
watermelon
Christmas.
hollow?
Yeah. What are you hiding
open-
in it? I'm hiding seeds. It's the
You
biggest
open
question.
the watermelon, there's a fucking Tontor in there.
Yeah.
That's
Remember-
exactly
And the
what I
Todd
pictured.
Tour is filled with Pez.
Oh shit.
Imagine
Fucking
someone
Steve,
did
man.
that to Pez Dispenser Tontor.
Dude, Steve is a genius. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh my god, did he do it? Oh my god.
He did, no,
No,
he just,
so there,
Just came
I
up with
think
the
you'll
idea.
you'll figure it out at at Adepticon because you will meet Steve. But there's like a certain point where you go to a con and you're hanging out with him and you realize that he's like the funniest motherfucker on the planet.
Sweet. Then I'm excited to meet him.
yeah.
Dude's really great. He's a lot of fun.
Perfect. Then okay, so my next question for Worlds: Bryan? What do you think is not so great or even bad about it currently, or stuff they could improve? Your pick.
Honestly, right now, it's the 4 rounds tournament thing. I think that's just a little bit too much to ask of the community at the moment. I think you need to let this thing cook a little bit and actually just let the excitement of just the very existence of Worlds do its thing, and then if you see the growth that you want from that, then you start kicking it up a notch from there. Because that was the main, the moment that was announced, that was the main thing that just seemed to turn everybody off, or a lot of people off to it, I should say, with good reason. Because 4-round tournament is definitely a lot to ask for most communities, and I think that was a little bit. I get that they're putting the cart before the horse with it. I get that they're trying to drum up the excitement and the support for it, but I think it could have the opposite effect with it, and that's not so great.
Yeah, I do agree there. It's like locally we have a lot of new players coming in, and our store is getting 8 to 9 players kind of concurrently coming out each week. What's really nice, and we kind of have about 16 in total, and they kind of rotate. So maybe we could get to 4 rounds if our Vanguard was we're gonna do a tournament, but I feel a lot of people drop out or not want to do 4 rounds. That's just the issue.
Yeah, it's not like it's a full convention either that you're really spending a whole weekend planning around and doing the whole thing for. This is 4 rounds at a local game store, so what are you gonna do? Sip at a hotel or a motel? I mean, or try to squeeze all 4 in one day. That's a little bit rough as well.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's good though. Karl, what is your good, bad, ugly, needs improvement about Worlds?
So at its core, this is a beer and pretzels game. And I just think Worlds is the wrong direction for it.
Keep going. Let this man cook.
No, in all honesty, yeah, I struggle with it because I would go play 4 rounds at a tournament easily, but I know I'm like a Conquest psycho, and that's not a realistic thing for some communities, and I think like there would be many more world qualifying events if it was 3 rounds, but like I understand why they can't be 3 rounds, so it just feels like a toss-up. Like I understand both sides of their perspective. I worry that there will not be enough world qualifiers in general. Like, as you know, since I am gunning for a spot, it would be a little funny if the Midwest runs like 7 worlds qualifiers and gets like 40% of the seats because nobody else can run it. But like at the same time, then what's the point of worlds?
Yeah, it's just everyone instead of going to.
It's just a
Call it
Adepticon.
Midwests.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be It's like Gen Con last year where I play the same 3 locals that I play every week.
Could you host Worlds in the Midwest? Is there like a big cabin in the woods we can all hang out at for a weekend?
The cabin in the
Yes.
cornfield, you mean?
Yes. Sorry, we got to get the corn syrup.
Yeah.
No, I do like these takes on Worlds, like the good and like the positives and the negatives. So with Ben, what do you got to say about good, bad, needs improvement about Worlds?
Yeah, I mean the main points are pretty much there, right? Getting enough world community events is difficult. It just is. Like the closest one that I've found that is going on a schedule, it's not even announced yet, is 6 hours away.
Oh boy.
And they're not sure, right? They're like, we usually get like 10 to 12. We're gonna push for it and hope some people travel. But it's far enough that you can't do a 1-day travel for it. Because if you drive 2 hours and play 10 hours and drive 2 hours home, that's a really long day. So people outside of 2 hours from something, really, you've cut down on the people who can travel for your event when you add that extra round. And I think that's a big ask. I would be surprised if more than a handful of people fill out their 4 world community events for the year. Like, I just don't see it as very likely.
So,
I think there's a good chance I get 1, and I'm willing to drive 12 hours for it.
yeah.
Right? That's my worry. That's my concern.
So early December, I drove 13 hours from Winnipeg to Calgary to play, and those guys had 10 people, including myself, and the TO played.
Is that each way?
Yeah. So I went 13, stayed the night, played Saturday, drove home Sunday.
Yeah, I'm looking at an event in Alabama in May. And then there's another one in Fayetteville, which is about 5.5, 6 hours from me. But Alabama is almost 13 hours. And then Diego's store down or not his store, but the store he plays at, usually gets events, and I'm assuming they're going to try to hold one, but that one's another 12 hours. And I'm willing to do all those drives, but it's a big ask. I mean, I'm going to Captain Con next weekend, and that's about 16 hours of driving for me. That is an officially sanctioned world event, but it's still like that's a long way.
Yeah.
So this is not something that's like easy to attain.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm finding too. Like Canada is really weird geographically, just because 90% of the population lives within 2 hours of the border. So you just drive along the one road until you hit the town you want to be at, and you go there. And so if there's a big event happening, I think it's like something called like Mountain Con or something. I think it's happening in Edmonton. So I'd have to drive another 2 hours north of Calgary on top of that to attend that, and I believe that's a Worlds qualifier. And I'm just like, there's only so many events I can attend, and that's why for myself, the shorter time frame for Worlds happening in September and being announced now in January, I would need the full year to plan out the events I would go to, and like that short time frame for this first World events just really hurts my capability of hitting up all these places and planning it out.
Yeah, the difficulty of attaining the invite to World should be in actually playing Conquest and not actually like just finding the goddamn tournaments to go to.
That's probably the nail on the head right there.
Yeah, it's kind of actually what I found happened with War Machine when I followed that a lot more a couple years ago. Was that it's like usually the people who are going to these big events like Worlds or like World Team tournaments and stuff like that, they were just the people who were capable of traveling more than a lot of other players. Like there were people who were like still good at the game, but they also had the money to spend on travel.
Yeah. There's a
There
real
is-
cost associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then another thing that I can it is kind of icing on the cake, I suppose, and it's partially because Dan just reminded me, but the app, it's a good app, it's a really good app, but it's not, the tournament functionality is not able to accommodate the kind of tournaments and the world setup that, like, the app just can't do it at the moment. It's full of mistakes that we ran into at LVO with that kind of thing. We still have actually the incorrect Worlds points amount, because for some reason the tournament thinks that Ben won, and then I got third. So we're waiting for those to be fixed eventually, and it's just kind of like the judges are trying to get that stuff fixed and get the app updated in better shape for Adepticon, but that is one definite downside.
Man, even
because those are like judges at official like Worlds events with PB staff on hand. So what happens when the app crashes at your local qualifier where it's just a Vanguard trying to handle that?
Yeah, it's just pen and paper and trying to input it after, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. If anybody asks my advice, I would suggest that you sign people up using Longshanks, and you can manually pair in the PB app. So I would suggest you run the tournament on Longshanks and then manually pair the app to match it, because Longshanks currently does all of those things very well.
Yes.
Sweet. There we go. Cass, what are your thoughts on Worlds? Good, bad, improvement? What do you think?
I think conceptually it rules. Everybody's kind of hit most of like the points that I would have otherwise, but I just think it's this year it's going to be tough. Like it's not. I don't think I'm there yet as a player either way. Like it's just wishful thinking to be like, "Ooh, I'm going to be on the road to Worlds." Like that's not where I'm at. But maybe next year, I think it's totally within reason for me to at least like to think that maybe it's possible. And I'll probably need that time to like plan my life around like making a shot at Worlds. And that's really where it's at, because like it's there's the issue of travel and making the time for the events that are actually gonna like potentially get me there if that's the case. But like I think conceptually it kicks ass and it's great for the community, and like I think it reinforces that even though this is a beer and pretzels game, as everybody knows, there is a bunch of weird people like us who take it probably a little too seriously and want to see who can really hang and who's the best and all that stuff, and that's good. I think that's healthy, so I hope it succeeds, but I think they move too fast with it. But as somebody who habitually moves too fast with things, can't blame them.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah.
Like it kind of
Moving
seems like
too
we're all
fast has worked.
it seems like we're all in the same boat. We'll get a bunch of like people start messaging us or like leaving comments. They'll be like, "In Europe, World is totally different." I'm like, "Great, but in Europe, you probably live not that far from events and stuff. While it's 13 hours to the next big events
for 3 hours.
Not what I've heard from the Europeans.
What have you heard from
the Bond?
What have you heard from the Europeans?
I mean, a lot of them are saying that the 4 rounds are a real killer for them. Because a lot of the stores don't stay open long enough.
Oh, that's another one.
Like they just
close us down at 7 p.m.
And everyone's on vacation in the summer, so like 3 months are out.
I mean, I'm not sure of that, but like, but yeah, I mean, it's more difficult for them to find space for the larger tournaments, and it's more difficult for them to like be able to actually run the 4 rounds. I mean, the 4 rounds is tough. It's just really. It's really tough.
It it's tough, but it's also like everyone I think in this Discord, like everyone in this conversation, that is to say, is willing to do it. It's just the acknowledgement that not everyone is a freak. So
Yeah,
and
like
that's very fair.
us five. Like I'll do 4 rounds. I'll do more, but I know a
Sure.
lot of other players would not, and I know from personal experience when I did large 16-person War Machine events locally. After round 3, we would kind of, it was like, okay, we have a definitive winner due to points. That guy wins, even if there was 2 people who were still tied for first. But whoever had the most points won, or tie breaks, because no one wanted to do 4 rounds.
I always want to play that 4th, but usually because if there's 2 3-0s at a local, it's because I haven't played Chuck yet, and I like playing Chuck.
Whoa. Yeah, and I don't blame you.
Chuck can beat me.
So we'd usually just do that. The 2 winners would just see each other next week and just play local, at the local game day. Just find out who won. But yeah, we do all our prizing and everything there, so that's the means. Should we get into our rule of the week then?
Yeah.
Oh lord,
Yeah.
we haven't even hit that yet.
Oh yeah, I know, this is a fun one. Brian, you chose it. You get to read it.
Oh God, I gotta pull it up.
Gonna pull up Barrage.
I gotta pull up Barrage, guys.
Yeah, you gotta do it verbatim.
Barrage X. You want me to read this?
Yeah, you gotta read
yeah.
it.
Oh,
The whole thing.
Yeah,
this.
not
Maybe the ass. It got a paragraph.
you don't have to read the italicized text.
A stand with this special rule contributes X shots when its regiment performs a volley action. The range, as well as any special rules, are given in a second set of parentheses after the Barrage X special rule. Example given: Barrage parentheses 4 parentheses 24 inches armor piercing 1 indicates that the stand is a Barrage special rule with 4 shots, a 24-inch range, and the armor piercing 1 special rule. If a stand has multiple Barrage X profiles, you must choose to use one of them. It's a pretty good rule, guys.
All right, what's your thoughts on it?
Future proofed.
So I think whenever I finally landed on the shell of my LVO list there, I basically described it to Karl as Dweg shooting featuring the Reg Warband. And the rule is pretty freaking good, as it turns out. Especially when it's armor piercing too all over the place.
Fucking
Hey,
Fireforge.
this is not the week to talk about armor piercing.
It's the week to talk about Barrage.
Yeah,
Exactly.
strictly Barrage, not
Sorry.
any augmentation to it.
Carl, what's your
Good.
thoughts on Barrage?
It's pretty good. It loses to OD. It's if you're Nords, Nord shooting loses to OD. But other than that, it's pretty good.
Wait. How? Am I getting
Look.
punked again?
Well, we've been told this by individuals on the internet. I haven't been able to recreate this bug where the shooting loses to OD if you are Nords, but people have reported it.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Person has reported it.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but that's completely contrary to my lived experience.
It's
Yeah,
completely
I was
contrary
unable
to
to
everyone's
recreate
lived
the
experience.
issue.
Not to silence
Contrary to
somebody
nonsense.
else, but
Shooting is one of the best things into OD. How would it be bad?
Honestly, I feel bad because I've been punking on this person for like the entire last week because I kept going off about the R5 OD when we were talking to Stavros.
Oh my god. Did Stavros chuckle at least? Please tell me he chuckled.
Once or twice, I think.
I
At
distinctly
first, he had
remember
this look
shaking
on his
his head.
face like, yeah. At first, he was like, "What?" And then I said
We had
it
to
was a
explain
troll.
it.
Yeah, and then he thought it was funny.
There's a bit of me that's glad he doesn't patrol his own Discord. He's just like,
I mean,
he's-
There's a lot on that Discord. I don't think I would patrol it either.
yeah.
I just mark channels as red, and then I try to avoid them nowadays, and I can't. Oh man, that's
For the
good.
best.
It's good to.
What-
No, I like that Discord because there's always just a very imaginative interpretation of things somewhere to be found on that Discord.
I would say there's hot takes that outdo you, Cassandra, on hot takes, and so you feel defeated towards them.
See, I said the same thing, but like an HR person.
The entire Discord needs an HR person, and they would just be like, "I quit. You can't
Yeah.
pay me enough to stay here." Ben,
I've seen the meme on Bonktable Discord. It's Bonktable that needs the HR person. Let's be honest here.
not really. I've kind of solved a lot of those problems myself.
No, fair enough.
Usually anyone who goes a little too crazy on the Bonktable Discord gets a talking to, and then if they keep going it's you're banned. Like,
Can you ban people for being wrong?
Technically, I have to say yes.
So, I deliberately structured the Discord so that I have accountability to no one. So technically,
So there's only
if I had half a mind to, no one's gonna stop it.
yeah. There's only one person above me, and that's Cassandra, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah, I've ruined enough Discords to know how to maintain my own interests in one.
When you finally leave Conquest, you just make sure you nuke this Discord.
Don't you don't want me to do that?
Wait, the first rule is asking for a positive place to discuss a variety of games and to constructively discuss lists.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So perhaps
finally
we
read
haven't
the server
been true to the
rules.
mission statement.
Wait, there are server rules?
Yeah, it's under the memes.
I only read
That's
it
even-
when I
that's
wanted to get
better.
Omaida banned, but he definitely deserved that, so that was fine.
we are not gonna go back to that. That was swift.
The best was
I almost got
What?
for that one. I will admit I got like 3 Discord pings, and one of the Germans almost called me, and then I handled it very swiftly, and that's all we're gonna go for.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I like that you almost got a voice call over it. That's amusing.
Well, it would have been really weird because I don't know any German. Well, sorry, I know a little bit of German now because I'm on Duolingo, but it would have been really weird talking to a person across the world in German, and it'd be like, I don't know what's going on.
Most of the Germans speak English.
Yeah, I really more so am imagining because I have a lot of friends in town who are German immigrants for some reason, and just imagining that that German basically I'm imagining Werner Herzog calling you and complaining about
Unsavory
how
people in
somebody
the
is
Discord.
posting on a Discord. Yeah,
Yeah,
and internally I'm dying.
yeah. No, it's funny. Well, like not the weird, but the funny thing today is the dueling episode went out today as we're recording this, and I have just been DM'd like Yu-Gi-Oh dueling memes like personally towards me, and then in other Discords towards me. So now everything's just covered in like Yu-Gi-Oh dueling.
Well, you gotta believe in the heart of the dice.
Yeah.
You know?
I say that anytime I have an equal number of cards with my opponent. And I don't think necessarily. I think they just think I'm weird a lot of the time. I don't think the reference necessarily translates.
Yes. My weird thing is when someone's like, "Oh, I need a 4 to get in, and I don't have a banner." I'm like, "You'll do it," and then they roll it. I'm like, "Yep, there you go." And then there's like, "I need a 2 to get in, and I got a banner," and it's like double ones. I'm like, "Yeah, I know. This is how the game's played."
Yep.
Or the people who roll a 6 and don't have a banner. I'm like, "Yep, nice job. You got this. Just roll the dice. You'll be fine." Ben,
You know, if they do it with every one of their units, it'll probably happen twice a turn.
Yeah.
it's true. Ben, what are your thoughts on Barrage? Why do you think it's a good rule?
I don't know if you know this about Barrage, but it actually allows you to do damage to things that are not in base contact with you, where a lot of the things can't hurt you back immediately.
You
So
goddamn
I would
son of a
say,
bitch.
I
You
would
stole
say
my
that
gag.
I would say that is an advantage. Yeah, Barrage is pretty good. Like, I think ranged units provide a lot of value. I'm gonna be like a little bit serious here. I think it's an element that almost every list should have, and I think a lot of people it's easy to overlook. But just being able to do an extra damage or 2 to a marker early can really get you ahead, and create a situation where your opponent has to be more aggressive than they might want to be because you've already gained some early edge.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I like to have, especially because I'm a 100k player, I like to have the Merc crossbows in the list, and they're also a great mainstay, and they're cheap, and I can always expect them to do some kind of work, And if they can hit their proper targets, like I'll actually get more work out of them than maybe I should be allowed. And then, they can just run around and get in the way. But I do agree with having a little bit of shooting in every list, because there's times where it's like 2 regiments in a big fight, and it's that little extra bit of shooting is the side what wins.
And objective markers exist.
Yeah, kill those things.
Objective markers exist. There's also, so many things live on 1 or 2 wounds that, just having that activation ready to go that can finish that off for you, or set yourself up for a better clash afterwards.
Yep.
Look at that, Mass. I was even able to turn Barrage as your week of the rule of the week into a somewhat reasonable discussion.
No, thank you. After Karl's meme answer.
It's been a really long week. I got 1 hour of sleep last Saturday, and then flew home from Vegas, and I'm still, feeling that.
Yeah, you're just ready to go, aren't you? You're like...
I mean, you can look at my Discord posts this past week. It's been a little unhinged. I've probably posted the bird gif,
oh my God,
over 100 times.
I'm gonna ban that fucking bird.
So here's the thing about that bird gif, is it's from one of my favorite shows of all time. And people in this community using it has made me hate it. And now there's just this burning black hole in the middle of one of my memories, and it's everyone's fault. And hope you're pleased with yourselves, people who have
I am now.
NDAs.
Oh yeah, are you guys all under NDA as well? Brian, are you free?
Yeah.
No, I'm on NDA.
Oh well, sucks to be you guys. Guess Cass and I will scoop up all the shit and find something stupid to talk about. Cass, what's your thoughts on Barrage?
So to expand on the point that every list should have it, that's true. I think, though, from having been around through a couple revisions of Conquest, it's gone from being useless to a little too important to now being, I think, in a good place. It's not something that you can lean into and just make a gun line. I mean, you can. Obviously there was that game where I got slapped by it. But it's a good thing to have. You need to account for it. You want to have it, but you don't necessarily it's not just all shooting. It's not a game of shooting, but it's also not shooting is trivial. So I think that they've worked hard to dial that in, and it's overall in a pretty good place right now. I don't know maybe if it's perfect, but yeah, it's fun to play shooting. It's not too... I mean, I play armies with good shooting, so maybe that's skewing my opinion as well.
Was it ever useless?
I don't think it was ever,
not useless, but early on, circa, I guess just before 1.5, I feel was when it had the least amount of value, and then it's increased from there.
VCI had Snapfire back then, so it was not useless for sure.
Yeah, remember some people don't play VCI. They just get touched by VCI and hurt.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That is fair.
So my take on Barrage is that there is a difference between quantity shooting and quality shooting in this game, and as a wonderful 100k player, I have quantity shooting, and the problems with that is that there's not enough board space to focus fire with it, especially if your opponent is screening the regiments properly and using the terrain to their advantage. They can really take away a lot of the bonuses to quantity shooting, while I find quality shooting is a bit better. Yeah, it's more pricey, but you take up less table space on the board. You can always do damage turn by turn. I always look at Bocho and VCI as some great examples of it. And they can always just get work done into a lot of targets, and they can usually punch up into things than maybe some traditional shooting wouldn't kill. I think Marksman Clones would be another good example of some quality shooting. So that's my take.
Why not have it both ways and run slingers?
Oh God, do not go back to
high quality mass shooting.
Start a version 2.
Sorry, high quality volume shooting. I don't want to be confused. or think that I'm threatening my co-host.
Yeah, I mean, Fireforged are very high quality shots, but not a ton of them.
Aren't they Barrage 5? No, they're Barrage 4.
There are...
Another 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From
I mean, Bow Chosen I feel like, are one of the poster children of high-quality shooting in the game right now.
Yeah.
Being a Forever Barrage 3, I just feel sad every time I see the number. Anyone who has 4 or higher, what's like everyone else.
Yeah, but you have 18-inch range. You usually just get a full extra round of shooting than a lot of those 14-inch range units.
Yeah, and then usually when that Bocho gets into range, they just delete me, and I'm like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I'm like, pistol, and they're like, shotgun blast. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right, but, I mean, if you think about it from, I get to shoot twice with these guys, they're kind of Barrage 6. Whereas other people are like, I get to shoot once, so, they're Barrage 5.
Hit you with the math.
The guy with the 14-incher is only got 1 shot, so he's going to go harder, right?
Well, my guys with the 14-inchers are also serving double duty because they're off to the wall.
There's
Yep. It turns out Defense 3 Defense 4 Resolve 4. Yeah, I guess Defense 3 Shield Resolve 4 is very tanky.
Oh, that hurts.
Crazy how that works out.
Yeah. I think we're good on Barrage, but here's I know what your opinions on Fireforge, because every time I look at them I get angry, and I still do to this day.
They look like Soundwave from 80s Transformers to me with that shoulder-mounted cannon, so I can't be too mad at them, even though I hate playing into them.
Do you? Well, you guys are playtesters, so you can't tell me. I'm like, because a lot of the times I'm like, why are they mainstay? Why are they defense 3 with a shield? I'm like, just...
And the people who know can't say anything.
Yeah, no, they just get to hear my ramblings and say nothing because they're under NDA, so it's perfect for me. I'm just like, it just keeps bothering me all the time where I'm like, man, they get like some super good shooting as a mainstay who are like really tanky and defensible, and it's hard to get through them, and then also the sorcerer is like, I'm gonna burn some of the shit tickets, and it's like, god damn it.
So like,
It is kind of what they are, though, right? Like, that is kind of like quintessential what you expect out of Dwagum.
Yep.
And sometimes an army is allowed to have a thing that is too good. Like, honestly, every army should have a thing or two that's too good.
Yeah, because it really adds character to that faction.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at warbands in every other faction. That warband usually has a pretty spicy mainstay pick. So the Fireforge is just that pick for the tempered warbands. And yeah, obviously they are such a ridiculous wall. I believe our suggestion at LVO, like literally right after the whole tournament, we were like, these guys probably need to be Resolve 3. So we're hoping that goes through. But, they have to... They're volley 2, and Dwag hate being on the move. So it's kind of... They have their weaknesses built into them.
And the range is short,
And the range is short, yeah.
They're going to have to march and shoot. If they get to take aim and shoot, you're like, ooh, look, free hits. But you're not expecting that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
even on the take aim and shoot, they kill they barely kill a single brute drone in a volley.
Like 6.5 hits.
Yeah, if they take aim. Like, it's... Sometimes you just gotta duck your head and run at it. Like, the actual shooting isn't the part that is
the problem. It's their
maybe an issue with them. It's the fact that they're a really good wall, and then you hit them, and then there's a Drake behind it. And...
Yeah, no, it's a layering aspect with Dwag. And I always wondered, like, I know there was the September update where Dwag changed a bunch. A lot of those changes I would say for the better. And one of the Fireforge was one of the things that was never touched. And I'm like, why are you not touched? And then still gonna say, like, playing Ash and Dawn and just seeing the level of like, oh, Ash and Dawn are OP. I'm like, guys, like, stop. It's my one toy. Like, I get it.
They're real good, though.
Yeah,
Ash
really
and Dawn
good.
are much more egregious for game balance than anything else in Conquest right now.
Yeah, but then I look at
Probably
like
more so than the Mantle Tantor, because you can only have one Mantle Tantor.
No, they're still fine. Running 10 of them.
Alright, well, let's not touch Trample while we're at it if we're gonna say...
No, I've eaten Tramples before. They're great.
Wow.
However, Bryan, you are the winner of Adepticon. what was your list? And let's talk.
That was me.
Yeah.
LVO was Bryan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Brian, you're the winner of LVO. What was your list? We'll go through each of you guys' lists before we get into your round ones.
I just got transported to an alternate reality where I didn't completely spike the dice on my Warlord Sork in the game against Karl, and I was my soul was happy for just a moment. Finally. What we talk about the list?
Yeah, because we're talking about Fireforge, and I know you're running them.
That is 100% true. Yeah. So the list is, like I said before, it's a ranged Dweg featuring the Reg Warband, because you still need an amount of melee capability in your gun lines, as far as I'm concerned, especially in Dweg, because you need to, like we're talking about, they have short ranges and poor movement, so you need to be able to create the space necessary for you to actually get your guns up onto the midfields for them to do what they need to do, especially your Hellbringers. So it's a giant block of initiates, 7 of them with a roided out hold reg. It's got 2 Hellbringer Drakes with the Sorcerers riding them. One of them is the Warlord. They are both Magma Drakes. So they're throwing a whole bunch of delicious power clasts at 18 inches off the seep. And a couple units of Fireforged, a unit of Hold Balliste with the Herald of Magma in there to help spread the magma love around with the Erupting rule. So whenever they're on a terrain piece, I can power class off of that as well. And just a nice Hold Warrior MSU that I know a lot of Dweg players hate, but pads out the medium reinforcement rolls a little bit, and it's just, go sit on the fucking point or go get in the way, both of which they did admirably during the whole tournament. So, yeah. Pretty straightforward list.
No, it sounds great. What was your... So, quick couple questions. What was the main thing that, if you wanted it to survive to the end, that was going to carry you the game, what would it be in your list?
Like a unit I wanted to survive to the end of the game?
Yeah, like if that was the big thing that's like kind of like your big thing that's carrying the list to victory. Like one component you want to die last. How about?
It's the Hellbringer Drakes.
Okay.
They are like the sheer amount of threat and aggression they offer tempered is actually kind of through the roof. Funny enough, the last video that Ben posted on the channel of getting my ass kicked by Karl's Underspires kind of sells that home. Because normally when you're playing Dweg, you're playing a very tight, castle-y kind of play style where you don't want to actually move from the castle very far. You don't want your units to get overwhelmed by the opposition in any real way. Again, we don't move very fast. We don't have any movement tricks. So you want to play tight. You want to play close, 2/3 of the board, and kind of just slowly push up onto the points. But the Drakes actually allow you to have such ridiculous aggression, because between the Drake's march value and the reach of magma spells, you can reach out and poke your opponent and touch them so much better than you've ever been able to in the past. I need those alive throughout the game, because not only do they have that great threat range, but obviously they have the Sorcerers on there. I'm getting my tokens from it, and they just have the damage and ability to project that damage that I need all the way right up through the end of the game. Like I'll watch the initiate blocks get killed, and I'll be very sad about that. But that's kind of their job ultimately at the end of the day. It's in the Drakes.
No, thank you. Then I guess what is the first thing you want to die? Like in your list, if it dies first, you are A-okay with it.
It's either, weirdly enough, it's either it's Balliste. It's the Balliste or the Hold Warriors. Like the Balliste in particular are supposed to get up there, get the erupting terrain going, and then probably eat a charge or just buy some time with their bodies and hold the line. The second closest would be the Warriors, and they did that very admirably, especially into Jeff's Tantor, buying the turn I need for more shooting. So yeah, just a couple of screening units.
No, it's sweet. Thanks for describing it. Do you want to, I don't know, drop your list somewhere and I'll throw it in the description so that people can see it and steal it for their own and understand it better?
Yeah, I could do that.
Perfect. And same thing to Karl and Ben. But I'm going to go to Karl. What's your list?
Bread and butter Underspires, I guess. So it was High Clone Executor, souped up a little bit for dueling, and a huge block of Force Crones with Marksman as his restricted. Then a Avatar projected Ferromancer with 2 MSUs of Strix, 2 MSUs of Brute Drones, and another Foot Ferromancer with an MSU of Onslaughts, an MSU of Force Drones, and 2 MSUs of Brute Drones. So 4 Brute Drones total.
Sweet. Is this a variant, or is this the same list that you and I played on?
This is the same list.
Yeah, it's a good list. It's tough to deal with. So I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked Bryan, and Ben gets all the time in the world to think about these answers for him. What is the last thing you want to die on your list?
Probably the Baromancer and Brute Drones or the Marksman clones.
Okay, is that usually because if they are the last things dying, like everyone's gotten through everything else, or...
Pretty much, and yeah, like Marksman can sit on a point and just plink shots from halfway across the table. The Ferromancer and the Brute Drones, it's a very self-sufficient unit, so that winning a flank and just sitting there until the end of the game, like both of those are viable.
Mm-hmm.
And this list, like... You have to deal with the Force Groans, so I don't expect the Force Groans to survive, but also it takes a monstrous amount of shit to actually deal with the Force Groans, so I'm never upset if they actually die. Like, it happens. Sometimes I want them to live a little longer than they do, but at the end of the day, like, they will die, and I know they will.
Yeah, and then also your Ferromancy's, like, -1 defense, draw event is super powerful just to hit opponent's defense, make it so that things die faster. Like, yeah, keeping those guys alive is really good.
Lethargy is gross.
Yeah. So then, what's the first thing you want to die? Is it the Force Grown Drone block?
Strix.
Oh yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense. Do you? So
yeah,
go ahead.
You'll hear about the Strix exploits as we hit the rounds, but I try to keep them alive longer than most Spires players, I think, because they are a very good unit no matter what they do, but if you can actually get, like, kill value out of them and death value, they're fantastic.
Yeah. No, thank you. Ben, what was your list?
I played... not the same list as Karl, because I didn't want to play the same list as Karl. But that list is pretty much the best thing that we've come up with for Spires.
Was that an active choice?
Yeah, it was an active choice of, we knew we were probably going to play each other, and we didn't want to play an exact mirror, especially if it was on camera. That would be really lame. So...
it's like two old men fighting it out in the parking lot.
Yeah, and it's... I don't know.
Instead,
it didn't sound like fun. Like, it's not very fun to play the same list into it. Like,
did you guys have to play
not.
a game of Conquest to decide who got to play the good list? How did you figure that out?
No, Karl has been testing it more than I have. I came up with the original concept of it, and at Michigan GT, Karl was like, I really kind of want to, like, see if Under Spires is playable. And I'm like, I've got a list that I think is pretty good. And we played, like, Karl played a game with it, and at that point it had the Lethal Demise big block of Onslaught drones, and we were like, that's just not worth it. So we split that into 2 MSUs, and we got just a bunch more MSUs, so that the army was able to, like, just flood the board a lot better. And then Karl's been refining it ever since, and I think the only major change that happened after that point was you switched one of the Onslaughts into a Strix, which honestly is correct. And I will be playing a version of Under Spires at Captain Con next week, but it will only have 1 Strix because I cannot get myself to build 3 more stands of them right now. I don't have it. It's a chore. It really is.
Is it?
Like, I love the way they look. I hate putting them together.
Yeah, that's I feel any flying unit is kind of like that, especially if they're on, like, kind of flight stands or something. It just seems like they don't connect very well and just cause problems.
Yeah, it's difficult. So what I played was also, this is my favorite way to play Spires. I love Sovereign Lineage. The Avatar are just my favorite models in the range. So I played a Lineage Highborn Warlord that ran with some Incarnate Sentinels and 2 MSU Superior Creation Avataras. A high clone in Vanguard Clone Infiltrators. That was the fully kitted out shooting version. So Infiltrator variant, Biotic Hive, and burrowing parasites, which kind of happened because I ended up with like 15 points that I didn't know what to do with. But burrowing it was good. Like it's a good upgrade. I just usually want to spend it somewhere else. I ran Vanguard clones with superior creations, Bound clones without superior creations, and Brute drones with superior creations in his warband. And then I ran a Ferromancer with Strix and Brute drones.
No, it sounds fun.
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's got a lot of utility. It's got a lot of tools. I get to play a lot of different vectors with it. It basically always has some threats, but it doesn't have the tools on some scenarios and some board states. Like it's a lot of brutes that just get shot, and AP2 guns just kill you. In my round 2 against Deco, I got tabled. I had 1 stand of Avatara left on the board. Now, before he was able to start scoring points, I had gained, I think I was up at one point like 64 to like 14 or something. And I believe that game ended with me being like 66 to like 42. Because he tabled me, but I got on all of the zones and sat there for multiple turns. And then against Bryan, the mistake I made was I didn't place my Incarnate Sentinels. I ran them into where his shooting was, and if I had just put them on the other side of the board and just been like, I'm going to do everything I can to sit all of my stuff on this one zone, it's very unlikely he would have been able to kill all of it in time to make up for the early scoring lead that I had. But I didn't recognize that at the time because, frankly, we didn't test Bulwark enough, and that was a hole in my game.
Okay, so I guess it's like I like your list. I like your analytics about it. I've already asked Karl and Bryan this question, but for you, I got a different one. Did you design this list to counter Karl at all? Because you knew you'd be playing. Okay.
This is basically just a small modification of his Michigan GT list.
Yeah, okay. I actually built this list. So I was challenged by a Vanguard in Iowa way back after I won Adepticon with City States to play Spire's list that like didn't use a bunch of things that Spires normally use. And like I had to use Ferromancer. I wasn't allowed to use Biomancer. There were just a bunch of like things that a bunch of restrictions, and I basically built this list with I had an Abomination at the time. Oh yeah, I wasn't allowed to duplicate any units, so I had to so I was only able to run the like one Avatara and then the one Incarnate Sentinels. So I had to like fit in an A-bomb in another regiment somewhere, fit in an A-bomb somewhere in order to not double up on anything. And that list worked really well, and I enjoyed it a lot because Ferromancer was just a ton of fun to play. So I modified it into a slightly more competitive version from that challenge to play at Michigan GT. And then after Michigan GT, I was like, well, I don't really feel like the Centaur are enough better than Brute drones for the additional cost. So I worked on using those points from the Centaur and using those to like upgrade my Vanguard clones, or upgrade 2 Vanguard clones from like Force Grown drones, and then the like last minute epiphany was, oh, you know what's really, really good? Superior creations on Brute drones. And I was very, very happy with that superior Brute drone unit.
Yeah,
they were very good.
Going to Clash 3, inspiring to 4, re-rolling those 5s and 6s?
Yeah, it turns out getting like 13 hits every time they clash is pretty spicy.
Yeah, no, there were, I believe, one of my locals last week that was doing that with their Brute drones. I was like, wow, these guys are kind of punching up a little bit.
Yeah, Brute drones, I always underestimate them.
They are So from what I'm finding is that they're great. They're good at like killing non-dedicated hammers, like chaff or like weak anvils or pinners or kind of like they're great at that. And you kind of have to, if you really want to get rid of them, you have to send one of your dedicated hammers out to kill them. But it's just not worth it.
Yeah, they're not expensive enough for you to want to dedicate a lot to, and then they beat up most of the stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like
Fuck them.
Yeah,
Is the essence of it.
Well, there's especially like Karl who runs a fuck ton of them. You can't fuck them because there's too many.
The evolution of my understanding of the Iron Spires matchup, at least for Dwight, though, was like I originally started out like in utter fear of the brute drones, but as time went on, it became the marksman and the induced lethargy more than anything else. I guess the fourth block, but like
that's a vector of disease for the actual problems of the list.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just.
But they are absurdly efficient though, which is really all it comes down to. So yeah, you do need to be able to deal with them. On this,
AOD hurts, but not as bad as AOD with lethargy.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, it just. I think Karl did that to Ash and Dawn.
Yeah, I did.
Fuck. Watch them die made me sad.
And one supremacy. How about just -1 defense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean,
still
Ash and...
am petitioning Stavros for a mounted Ferromancer on an Abomination who gets induced lethargy as a draw event.
Jesus Christ, dude. Calm down.
May that petition never happen, sir.
Yeah.
Slowbringer sorcerer.
Slowbringer sorcerer.
So Ben, what is a thing in your list that you want to survive till the end of the game? Like dies last. What is it?
The Lineage Highborn. I want my Warlord to never die.
Yeah, that thing seems like it's going to be a pain in the ass to kill. And what's the thing you want to die first?
Strix.
Yeah. Seems like the very common Spires option, choice.
They're move 10. They get out there and they're gonna die first. Like, people have to kill them too, so...
Yeah, I always hate when they get into melee with something and I'm just trying to what do I have to get rid of them? What is ranged? So I don't just have random explosions in my stuff, because I've had Strix hit AD before and just did 4 wounds from lethal demise. I'm like, oh, that was sweet.
Yep.
I played Tyler a couple days ago, Tyler who won Gen Con, and was trying to explain to him that, Strix are probably the worst thing that can hit Ash and Dawn, because I'm like, okay, so I'll do 8 hits to you, and then you have so many attacks that are going to hit that you're just going to take 12 hits from lethal. There's no way you could avoid those.
Yeah, it's...
But you can bless them.
Do I bless the Clash, or do I bless the Strix exploding on me?
Well, you bless the exploding on you, because they'll actually do more hits with the explosion. I know, and that's the funny part.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, isn't it auto hits?
Yeah. So Ash and Dawn are going to do 12 wounds that are going to go unsaved, and so you're going to take 12 hits back. And then you bless those, because, you don't want to take them. You'd rather take the, 2, 1, and then 1 and some change.
Yeah,
because it's 1 per 9 hits that you actually suffer on Blessed Ash and Dawn at D4.
Then they induce lethargy. Okay. Thank you guys for explaining your list. Bryan, who'd you play round 1?
Oh my god!
Pick your favorite friend.
So, I literally made the joke while we were in line for breakfast that morning, that one of us was going to end up fighting the other one for round 1.
Yeah.
And of course the universe said, well, it's going to be you.
And, you did make the joke.
Yeah.
Was it while you were harassing Duncan?
No. This before I was harassing Duncan. Duncan was literally Duncan Rhodes from of Two Thin Coats fame.
Oh yeah.
Literally was sitting right behind us at breakfast. It was pretty fucking awesome.
Did you get did you get him to paint one of your minis really quick for you? And you're like, oh, thanks, man.
No, unfortunately not. I did eventually get a picture with him, which was pretty cool. And then he called my army third best painted at the thing, which was also pretty fucking cool.
Oh, it's even better.
Yeah, I was quite happy about that. Yeah. But yeah, so the first game was at Jeff. So Jeff and I were both going into this fucking 3-4 hours of jet lag, hoping for easy round 1 and not getting one. He was playing, as he's calling his banana hammock. That was Ben, actually. I think Ben coined that, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah. So, banana hammock, cocksling, any number of names. Sorry,
Okay.
this is a family podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's chosen
Alright,
conquest, which are
that's-
cock, and slingers, which have slings,
Mhm.
and that is what a banana hammock is.
And it's especially stuffed because it's double cock. So he had the five block of cock and the MSU of it, the 5-man with the scion, a mantle tantor, 3 units of Cracker Blooded, and the Predator with slingers. So the list just puts out an absurd amount of pressure. Like in terms of pressure and conquest, like I don't think there's a list that does it better than that one does.
Well,
just the activation advantage.
I have seen Cassandra's cock shoot up the board like 21 inches into me. It was pretty rough.
Yeah, it's
Did you call the police?
No, I
Well,
slapped
it
a
was
horse.
consensual, so
Yeah, we agreed upon this before the game started, and then I slapped the shit out of it with some horses.
turns out that's what I'm into.
Sounds common.
Yeah, so the first, what the hell is it? It was a Forlorn Hope. That's it. So the 2 markers in the middle, 6-inch and 9-inch objectives on your left and right on each side of the board. So I knew I had played. We all played our test games the week before, and I knew that I was going to have to castle properly going into that list to actually be able to handle the Mantle Tantor, because that's how you deal with it. Like, you make it so that wherever it ends up going, you have your elements ready to catch it and kill it as soon as it lands. Which unfortunately didn't quite happen this game. I could blame any number of things, including the jet lag, but essentially I deployed right up the middle, and the Hellbringers kind of ended up off towards my right flank, and he threw that Mantle Tantor right at them. And although the Warriors ended up eating that charge for a turn, the Tantor was threatening to clean up everything else. It killed the Warlord Drake right afterwards. The cock block, along with the slingers, were starting to melt down the initiates, along with the MSU cock going right into the flank as well. This is just going to be really fun to talk about.
This is very
They're
fun.
gonna change the name of the unit over this.
Yeah, and
No,
if
keep
you
going.
think I'm going to... Yeah, I was going to say, if you think I'm going to stop saying cock to abbreviate this, then you got another thing coming.
Guys, it
anyway,
just
so.
means chosen of conquest. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. But yeah, Ben and Karl walked by the table and thought I was losing horribly, and that's true because I was about halfway through that game, because he had stolen the marker on my side out from under me a couple turns into it. I literally had 2 wounds on it, but he was pushing up with his 2 blooded on that flank. I wanted to make sure that I killed him, and I had forgotten that the goddamn triple activating cock could launch across the board and steal that thing from under my nose, which he promptly did. So that was a bad mistake. And yeah, it was looking really bad right up until about halfway through that game, where the dice suddenly started to turn back in my direction, and the fabled 10 of 11 saves on the initiates, into Cleave 1, I would add, by the way, so that was on 3s, kept the initiates in the game for a turn or 2 longer than they absolutely should have. And by that point, like Wadroon, they're going to start dying eventually, obviously. They don't have the toughness value to stay in the game for very long, and once you weather that initial storm, they're going to start falling apart, and you can start cleaning a little bit of house. So I was able to finally stop the Tantor from rampaging on my Hell Drakes in the back. I think the second Drake lived on like 2 wounds or some such shit before it finally was brought down. And I was able to clean out his slingers and push my left flank for the victory. Or at least hold the left flank long enough so that once the Tantor was out of the way and the Chosen of Conquest had actually chewed for my initiates, they were still stuck. Like they were the only thing he had left, being able to hold the points. So despite his initial objective advantage and his scoring advantage, I was able to wipe out enough stuff. I was able to catch up. Oh, and the Hellbringer Drake managed to score 2 points with the monster footprint at the end of the game as well.
Were you?
Which let me get.
Were you on 2 zones with it?
He was on 2 zones, yeah.
Nice.
He found 6-inch zone and a 9-inch zone.
Yeah, no, that's a really strong position to be in. I like doing that, especially in that scenario, just because the zones are so close to each other that it only takes 2 stands to reach across.
Yeah, I'd able because he had like 1 stand left of blooded that went back to his far 9-inch zone, so my Drake had to go chase after that, and the tokens came into play there because the last stand of cock, along with the Scion, had just cleaned up. I think the Fire Force I had right behind there. leaving me with just the Drake and the Fire Forge. But they were going to turn around and charge in the one turns because of the triple activation. But I had the tokens there to just ignore whatever they did with that, and then shot them up, and that was the game. It was a really good game, really tough match. Jeff's an incredible player, but
you pulled through. No, it's
pulled through. Yeah.
So as your first match, were you like worried that like you were gonna lose it at the first half of that game, and then as it kind of climbed back, you got more confident? Like how was your ego doing through it? That's my question.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm constantly in a doubtful state of myself and my ability. So like 4 or 5 rolls around, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking losing. But it was genuinely like a bad situation at that point because, like I said, he stole the marker on my side of the board from underneath me, so that was already a bad scoring disadvantage. And the Tauntaur was starting to run a little bit more havoc in my backlines that I wanted. A couple of missed deployments. I think my Fire Forge weren't as placed to handle that as they probably could have been. But ultimately, the leaker kind of just broke, and the initiates kind of living that one, just getting that one really spiked dice turn, really just kind of gave me the stability I needed to actually start cleaning some of his units up and pushing back on it. Because he didn't crash into my lines without taking a lot of hits for it. Like most of his blooded were already dead. The MSU unit fell pretty quickly, even though it got some good hits off on the initiates. So you kind of look up all of a sudden, you're like, okay, well, this is looking really bad for me, but he's only got the cock block and what little left of the Tauntaur, and the Tauntaur is about to die. So kind of just keep it steady and keeping the target priority down. One of the things that you learn very quickly with Blood Druid is killing the blooded units. As good as those blooded are, they're also integral for their scoring. So the moment that you take those away, all of a sudden you can start kind of pushing it back on the objective game pretty well. So yeah, it was looking really bad at first, but couple of dice rolls and just kind of stay in the course, and Jeff just couldn't quite break over the Dweg wall.
Yeah, luck and skill. Nice job, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations on round 1.
After Ben and I finished our round 1, we actually looked at their table and went to get snacks because we thought it was just over.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
There were not a lot of things left, and there were attacks going into those initiates. I did not expect the 10 save initiates. And that really turned the game. And I will remember that is possible, and probably would still get the snacks in the future. I was very hungry.
Like that game was a fucking textbook example of how dice even themselves out over the course of a whole game.
Yeah,
because going right up halfway through that game, like my dice were on the bad side. It was just atrocious. I was a sub-average on everything, and then all of a sudden I spiked the roll, over halfway through the game right there, and then the thing turns. So just keep it steady and try not to tilt like I always do, and sometimes things will swing back in your way.
No, I'm glad to hear that. Karl, how was your round 1?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell us about it.
It was a game. I played against, I believe his name was Carlos. He was playing Wadroon. Like Bryan said, it was Forlorn Hope. He was, I think, newer to the game. Just kind of looking to show up and have a good time. So, we just kind of got through the round and then went off and did our own things. I think it ended up being, let me check my notes here. 77-6. The list was not particularly optimized. It had 2 Thunder Chieftains, and both of them were in an MSU of Thunder Riders, and they had some upgrades on them that weren't getting a lot of value. So right there, that's just 400 points of characters. So it had. It was pretty much just the Spires rolled straight forward. The Strix and Raptors killed each other because the Raptors just killed the Strix, and then Raptors do in fact just kind of die to 12 hits from lethal. I think it's even like mathematically like they just do.
Yeah, pretty close.
And then the Blooded came on, and they got ran over by Force Groans. The Thunder Riders came on, and they ended up trading very poorly with the Brute Drones because the Brutes ended up getting the charges on them. and then just kind of not dying. So it was just kind of, I hope it was a learning experience. I know he had a couple other good games after that, but it was just kind of, it was a low pressure way to start out the tournament, I would say.
Wow, seems like you had a much more chill game than Bryan did. Did your
Pretty
opponent,
much.
Did your opponent at least have fun? That's like my big question in a game like that is,
Yeah.
like, as you said, he came out kind of a newer player, but as long as they had fun, like I kind of still value those games because there's time, like, there's still a bit of enjoyment of just playing the game even if you do lose. And
Yeah, definitely. And, helping out with the chance a little bit and him figuring out how some of those worked. So all in all, like, yeah, I think it was a pretty good learning experience. And yeah, he seemed to have a good time. So all in all, it's a win-win, I guess.
no, that's good. So then I guess we'll go to Ben because it seems like you wrapped your game up much earlier, especially if you got snacks. So Ben, who did you get out of your game first, or did Karl did?
I think Ben did.
Oh wow!
But not by
I think
much.
I did.
Let's hear it.
I won 100-4.
Oh, okay. Wow.
He was
Oh my
Damn.
god.
he was a really nice guy, but he came to the tournament with some friends and wasn't really like looking for competition. My list is as we just discussed, like very fast and very swarmy, and he kind of came on a little bit piecemeal, so I just shot the things that were on early, and then he charged some Strix and died, or like I charged him with Strix and it was Raiders and a Jarl, and I did a couple of wounds, but then he died to the lethal demise afterwards, and I pretty much just like pushed everything forward.
Yeah.
He got a little unlucky on reinforcement rolls, and it was not pretty. He then, like, both his giants came on, or his Jotnars, and both of them had 4-inch charges, and he failed both of them. So he didn't even... I really felt bad, because everything he tried to do didn't even work. So I really feel like he just didn't... He didn't even get to... Like, those giant charges were not winning him the game, but he should have at least gotten to kill something.
Oh, did he not kill anything except for Strix?
He didn't kill anything except for Strix. Yeah. It was a rough one.
So you two both had much easier times than Bryan did.
You fucking bastards.
Did your opponent have fun?
I made up for it by getting tabled in round 2, so...
So Ben, did your opponent at least have fun? Like, you guys chatted about it after and had a good time?
Yeah, I mean, he like, I guess this is a semi-positive, right? Like, he knew who I was, so when he saw that he got paired up against me, he was like, well, I'm not gonna win, so I'm just gonna have fun. And so we were talking, and I like gave him some pointers and stuff, and I don't know, that always feels like a weird place for me, like in my brain, that just feels weird. But like in this case, he's not a competitive player. That's not what he's playing the game for. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm glad both your guys' opponents had some fun and, maybe picked up some new tricks from playing you guys. Unlike Bryan, who went through the grinder.
I came out of it a stronger man, or so I tell myself.
He's just shredded now.
I mean, it was enough for you to beat
doing
me.
the Appalachian Trail. Come out looking all ropey and...
Exactly. Whenever I play either Ben or Karl or Jeff, I lose like 10 pounds of water weight. So that's actually
just sweat it all out.
Just like a puddle by his feet.
Yeah. You weigh me before and afterwards, and the difference is stark.
Makes your hair fall out.
Oh my god. You didn't do that to me. The America's university system did that to me. So
I still, because you were wearing a hat for all of Adepticon, so I legitimately thought you had hair.
Yeah, I show up bald. He's like, oh, the shine. I wasn't expecting it.
Cass, do you have any questions for these gentlemen for about their round 1?
I mean, nothing that I don't think was really touched on. I think this has all been very interesting to hear about, for sure. I ripped to that guy who went 4 to 100. that's even no matter what your attitude is going into it, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, that had to stay. I mean, I felt bad about it.
Like I've had those games, and it's not, but those aren't my most treasured memories. So like,
I guess I topped that at round 2 though. So,
Ben, please tell me that when the guy he got to the table first and was setting up, and you like walked over like your Magnus Carlsen from like top grandmaster in chess, just kind of like walking up, and he was like, "Oh shit."
Well, I know how I'm gonna win a Conquest tournament.
This is like that joke where you have someone like when you want someone who's not actually good at sports in the Olympics, so you can like actually get an accurate comparison.
Oh, that happened though. That happened in like short distance running.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's some I forget what country it was, but there was like women's short distance running, and the person who like chooses who Olympians go sent like his niece, and I believe they got fined for doing that because she was very slow, but she's also not an athlete.
That's just not even fair.
Yeah, it was not. But it gave everyone a perspective. Just play the boss music whenever any of you three show up. All right.
a little brutal.
Souls music.
Yeah, get the Souls music going.
Yeah.
I can when we meet up in Adepticon, Karl, I'll bring out the Souls music just for you.
Vort of Boreal Valley.
Yeah, that one goes hard. Or the Gargoyles theme from Dark Souls 1. That one's another one. Yeah. Bryan, how was your round 2? Was it better than round 1?
I mean, for my mental capacity, yes. And that feels kind of bad to say, because like it's not very often that like you explain to your opponent what your list does, and before the game begins, that's when you watch the light die from their eyes. But that's basically what happened here. This is the closest I have to Ben's fucking score there. I beat him 92-10. Which, with Dwag, should tell you exactly what kind of happened there. But yeah, it was round 2 was melee. I believe his name was Kevin, and he was playing 100 Kingdoms, double Ashen Dawn MSU, double Crimson Tower MSU, a Brick of Steel Legion, and a bunch of militia, and a chapter mage with men-at-arms. Or mercenary crossbowmen and some men-at-arms besides. And another kind of casual player that was showing up just to roll some dice and see what his list could do. But he definitely was not... I think he was definitely trying to like at least win a little bit, which is probably why he was a little bit upset about how the list goes, or how the fight into my list went. But yeah, he eventually just ended up trying a kind of pincer movement where he had one of each of the cavalry MSUs on each flank, and the Steel Legion kind of drove up the middle to meet the initiates, but he had already kind of walked his chapter mage and mercenary crossbowmen forward a little bit too much, so the Hellbringers just fucking picked them up like by turn 2. Like the end of turn 2, they were already dead. Yeah, it was not good. And the Steel Legion, like he march charged them into my initiates that hadn't activated yet. So
that's just okay. Yep.
Yeah, the reg just devoured them like dueled the officer out of it, and the various cavalry just kind of crashed into various things and didn't do anything. And this was the actual, like, this comes up time and again where you kind of have to marshal your forces into a ranged list before you actually make the move into it. But when your heavies are scattered across from turn fucking 4 to 5, that's very hard to do in time. Yeah. And he suffered that fate there, and yeah, it didn't go very well for him.
Yeah, after like playing 100k a lot, like I've been kind of cutting down on my heavy loadout. There was times where I was just forced to take 4 more heavies, just because that's how lists were going for 100k at the time. But recently, it's like more mediums, more lights. Kind of have 1 to 2 heavies that I know can get there and do work, kind of thing. Like,
yeah, and I told him basically like if you're going to run that kind of cav, then you got to brick up those AD and those Crimson Tower. Yeah. You can't have him anything showing up past turn 4. I gave what advice I could after the game, but he definitely wasn't having a good time, and I felt kind of bad about that because I wouldn't either if my shit was just getting shot off the board and I didn't really know how to handle it with my list. So
there's people playing like into gun lines like. This is for the listener. I do have a couple bow reports where I play some gun lines and I really talk about it. Go look up them. I forget which ones they exactly are. I might find them and throw them in the description, but you got to be prepared for it, and I find a lot of people aren't prepared for gun lines, and there are ways to deal with it. And like you said, Bryan, is brick up all your forces, kind of run everything at your opponent at the same time, because it gives your opponent too many targets, and you saturate it all, and they can't pick and choose. And like, yeah, they'll delete one thing, but then they still have to deal with all the other threats, and that's usually a good way to handle it as a general advice.
Yeah, pretty much. And in the Dwight gun lines in particular, like when you understand that you have the objective advantage to it, that game plan makes a lot more sense. So
yeah, and I find, like, especially with certain lists, like understanding what they're trying to achieve and like having a plan before you even put minis on the table is kind of where you have to start playing the game, and it does help. Yeah. Well, congratulations on your round 2 win. Well done on recovering from your mental strain on round 1. I guess you got snacks a little first, maybe this time.
Nope.
No.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure they were already free by the time I got out of there.
Well, with that, Karl, did you get snacks first?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
This was a little rough.
I gotta open up the book of grudges for my fallen comrade over here.
Oh my
God.
Is this the game? The Strix game?
This was the game, the Strix game, the one that Stavros talked about on live stream, the one that we talked about for a long time afterwards, the one where Dan came up, Dan, also known as Rolo, the judge for the event, and was just wondering what the hell was actually happening at my table. It was rough. So final score was 112-2.
Jesus Christ, guys. What is going on?
So, yeah, there's a funny thing where after my Adepticon run, when I was playing VCI Spires, I had just played into Bryan, who is most certainly the best Dweg player that I've ever played into. And it was kind of like running into all these people running similar lists, and it was like, oh, you're not Bryan. This is really easy. So it was kind of a bread and butter Dweg tempered list. It had a Foot Sorcerer, a Mounted Sorcerer, a Steel Shaper, a Hold Ray, just like a lot of stuff, but in small units. And I know how to play into that list. I did it all the time with a less effective Spires list, and it doesn't have a good time into Underspires. I just kind of shoved my big Force-Grown block down the center. But what ended up happening with the Strix is where you have to understand how flanks work in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is... Some people on the Discord have gone and said that they don't think flanks do enough. They don't know how to play Conquest. I'm just going to be frank there. Unless you're playing Old Dominion, if you don't think flanks do anything, you don't know how to play. So he marched. I had my 2 Strix on one side of the field, and they were tilted and angled so that if either one of them got charged, the other Strix automatically just got a free charge clash into whatever unit hit them. So he just kind of walked his automata up the center, and then march charged my Strix through hindering, so they did no damage. I lethargied the automata and flank charged him with a unit of Siphon Strength Strix, who just immediately ate the unit. Then the next turn, he double marches his Steel Shaper on the board in a unit of Hold Warriors, but he leaves the flank open, so the other unit of Strix just march charges and then kills them at the top of the next turn, and then the second Strix comes in, march or charge clashes a unit of Dragon Slayers, kills a stand, and then the Dragon Slayers swing back, kill the Strix, but lose a second stand to lethal, and then my second MSU of Strix got into the flank of a unit of 5 Hold Ballastae and killed all of them over the course of a couple turns. So, literally these 2 MSUs of Strix, 250 points, well, 240, so about an eighth of my army killed about 1,000 points of Dweg over 3 turns.
Holy shit, man!
I can't think of a more disgusting sentence in the context of Conquest.
Are you, like, Can we rewrite the Geneva Convention as the Karl Convention? And it's just all of Karl's war crimes.
Yeah, so like I said, Dan walked up and saw him just walk up and put stuff in my flank, and open up his flanks, and he was like, okay. And Stavros was sitting by the table for about half an hour, and he just watched it happen, and then he came up and we talked after. Because you have to have an understanding of flank to play the game. And so, we called it at the end of turn 4, which felt fair. He was definitely not having a good time, and I didn't want to hold him hostage there. I would have been close to a table at the end of the next turn anyways, but...
No, I can respect that, just like...
Yeah.
If it's going that bad, just, yeah.
The Strix spiked a couple rolls, but, like, it wasn't by that much. Right? Because when you're in the flank, that also balances out good or bad dice rolls. So my Strix were dreaded, because the Ferromancer was close, and they were dread +1 attacks, so they're getting 15 attacks. So getting 8 to 9, or getting 9 to 10 hits is only like 1 to 2 more dice than average than I should be doing. Mm-hmm. So it's not even spiking by that much, but 10 hits from Strix in the flank will kill pretty much any Dweg MSU, except for like Dragon Slayers.
You're also getting rid of defense, rerolling morale. Like, there's a ton of buffs you get. Like, getting rid of shield, getting rid of phalanx. Like, there's like city states. I love to set up flank charges into city states all the time. And that's really the easiest way to get rid of them. And doing it to Dweg also just helps out a ton, even if they have a higher resolve in defense. Like, just stripping it away just makes your game so much easier.
Yeah, flanks matter, and you need to be able to screen your own flanks to play an effective game of Conquest. Because and just force your enemy to reveal their flanks. I mean, that's what I got really good at it playing into Ben and Bryan, and just something as simple as tilting a unit so that when it gets charged, it opens up the enemy's flank. And that's huge, and it's gaining that small value in incremental stages and that kind of stuff. And those small advantages are how you win games of Conquest.
Yeah, so I played that Goblin list into Ben on TTS earlier this month, and he was like doing all those rotations. I was realizing I was getting flanked all the time, and now all my games going forward from there have been like, I'm rotating all my stuff to set myself up. If someone charges me, I'm getting a flank charge. If I charge them, I'm getting into the flank, and like I'm actively looking for it, and it's improved my play immensely after playing that game with Ben. It was like
100%.
He was
like if you should take a charge clash and live with like a stand or a stand and a half, you'll probably die if you get flank charged in that exact circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll take about double resolve, and you'll take extra hits, assuming that you have a shield or something, which most peace traders or infantry and that kind of stuff do. So it's like flanking is important, and it's one of those where Conquest is a skill game, and Stavros was talking to us about it, and it's part of the whole. In 40k, if you're bad at 40k, you will still kill things.
And if you're bad at Conquest, no.
Yeah.
You won't kill things because you'll get flank charged, and you'll lose your entire army, and not be able to do anything in return. And that could be a major feels bad. It's rough to have that happen to you.
Yep, I've been that player, and it's not fun, but
yeah, well, good on you. I'm glad that you let your opponent go. I believe that was the correct choice in that situation. But also, holy crap, your Strix are just... Did they buy the snacks this time around? They're like, here you go, boss. Here's some snacks.
I think so. Honestly, I hate them so much, and they're impossible to rank up. So honestly, it was... they earned their keep, and I didn't smash them the second I got home, so...
Wow. Ben, how was your round 2? I hope it wasn't... I hope you had a hard matchup.
Oh yeah, I played into Deco.
Sweet.
Deco Puma on L Internets. Yeah, he killed everything in my army except for one stand of Avatara.
All right, let's hear it.
Which I think had 2 wounds left. So the scenario was melee, and I took all 4 zones, and his list was 4 units of Fireforged, a Drake, a big warrior block with a Fire Herald and a like fully decked out Arcane 3 Cathodic Flame focused sorcerer.
Fire or magma?
Fire.
Okay,
So he was
cool.
running double fire. Fire on the Drake with Graft of Flame. Is that the one that lets you burn yourself for an extra die?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one.
yeah. Or Heart of Fire out. Or Heart of the Mountain. That's another good one.
Yeah, Heart of the Mountain's good, but it's more expensive. And Deco's very good. He's very patient. He pretty much just marched 5 inches and took whatever pot shots he could the entire game. And he couldn't really do more than that, or I would kill his stuff. I made a couple of like pretty fancy plays, like running really far up and needing to win initiative. Which counts as fancy. I did have advantage on it though, so I had to win a supremacy to kill a Drake. Ultimately, I probably didn't. I sat on all 4 zones for 3 turns.
Oh,
And
God.
I pressured one side of the board, like I refused flanked him hard enough that 2 of the zones were going to be pretty much unreachable until like turn 9 or 10 for him. So I gained a significant enough victory point lead, and I just kind of I threw like I zapped Brannigan. I threw wave after wave of my own troops into the killbot, into his killbots, and they only have a 10-turn kill limit, and he was unable to kill my stuff fast enough to get onto the zones and catch up. He played the game really well. My list is faster and was more able to get onto the zones, so he fell victim to the classic Brannigan.
Your list is built like a steakhouse, but handles like a bistro, you might say.
I could say that, yes. I wouldn't.
I mean, you might.
Nope.
I believe in
talk
you.
about round 6, the steakhouse.
Yeah.
I feel like it's built like a taco truck and handles like Flavor Town.
Oh, not Flavor Town.
Did you hit him with the
Oh,
spice weasel at the end, or what?
Oh, the Flavor Town man.
If you start,
Karl's
so
true enemy.
if that was true though, you'd Fieri Max at the next big tournament, and like bleach your hair and get the flame button up and get those.
I think I
goofy-ass
would
pit
die from
altars
like
and
the hockey from that. That would actually just like put me into convulsions at the
goatee.
start.
That's your easy win into Karl. Change your appearance and
For
personality.
backstory, I probably got some variation of food poisoning from Guy Fieri's Vegas restaurant on Friday night.
Yeah.
It was rough.
We've been jokingly calling it the Fury of Flavor Town.
Oh my god, I want to talk about that part of it once we've talked about the things that other people are interested in.
Stick around for the Fury of Flavor Town.
Yeah. Flavor Town has no breaks.
Yeah. So Ben, like in your game, when you got all 4 zones and were holding them, and your opponent was kind of like, kind of walking slowly forward and shooting at you and not making huge plays, or else he'd get swarmed, and you're sacrificing your own men. Was there ever a point where you like? Well, I guess like you never overcommitted, but were there times where you're looking at it and you're like, oh, what if I throw in like an extra guy? But you're like, no, I only need to throw up 1. Like, how are you pacing your own men to die for you? Is my question.
Well, I was just trying to do march charges into regiments that had, to try to like keep his stuff stacked up, because he can't afford to give me flanks. Because if I get flanks, I can kill him. But if you have to charge Dwagum in the front, you don't get to kill them very well.
No, it's terrible.
So, so I pretty much just was like trying to position in a way where I kind of kept him boxed in, so that he stayed in his little like corner of the board, and was able to like, I couldn't stop him from shooting my stuff. And the more I encroached into his area, like the more he was able to walk a unit on and shoot with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I could do that, if I could prevent him from moving, I could gain a lot of advantage. At one point, I charged into a Hellbringer Drake, and I was really sitting there, and I was hemming and hawing about it. I was like, he's probably going to go first with the Drake, and if he goes first with the Drake, on whether or not I should even make this charge, I was like, but if he put his Drake first, he's going to be very, very sad to make a clash action into this Avatara unit. And I said that out loud, and I was like, whatever, March Charge. And he smiled as he flipped over the Hellbringer Drake. It's a little smirk, because he was a little sad, but I think he enjoyed it, because I don't think he gets a lot of games where people are even thinking about that, right? Like, very few people I see play think about the opponent's stack.
Yeah, there's plenty of times where I'm looking at it and I'm like, how can I get the Hellbringer Drake pinned in melee? How can I, especially like in the flank, so if the wizard on top can't see me, is like another big one. So yeah, I'm always looking at stuff like that, especially against shooting regiments. They don't like that for some reason. Well, so he tabled you. You had one thing left, or he absolutely tabled you?
Yeah, on turn 10, I was able to. He was out of range to shoot down my Avatara with magic. So I had the one card with the 1/2 wound remaining stand of Avatara, and he wasn't going to be able to get to me because he would have to move his warriors first, and then I would run away from him, and then he would move his warriors again. And it was worth 2 victory points because melee does have kill points.
Yep.
So I was going to prevent him from doing that. So.
Oh, good job. Nice win there, and also like understanding the matchup. Like that's a hard one to deal with for a lot of players, and I'm glad that you practiced and you knew what you're doing, and it shows. So well done, man.
Yeah, and then I followed that up by not doing that correctly against Bryan in round 5. Because I hadn't played that scenario enough, and that is the importance of practice.
That killed us, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Cass, any questions for the round 2?
No.
I'm just like Bryan and Karl are just. It seems so far. One of you gets a really hard game, and the other two just get to like do whatever they want. They're like, yeah, we'll just have some easy games today.
My round 3 was really easy.
Yeah, that was an easy game. I don't think anybody had to do any thinking.
Nope.
All right.
That's also kind of a burn towards Steve, because Steve was my round 3.
Let's hear about Bryan and Steve. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so I played Steve's Old Dominion. What the hell was that? Head-to-head, that's what it was. And he was running 2 Bone Golem blocks of 5, 6-man Varangian Guard, Ziliarch with a block of Praetorians, Warlord Archimandrite, and a few MSUs of Legionnaires.
Sweet, and, I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty grindy. The problem is he's rolling for the 2 heavies, and then he's rolling for them afterwards. So it's definitely
on his Ziliarch. Did he have what is it, like Old Dominion 3, where he gets the +1 on his rolls when he gets the Ziliarch on the table? Did he take that upgrade?
I think so, but they were in the Praetorians, so they weren't helping his heavies at all.
Well, wouldn't they help the heavies?
No, the OD upgrade, it gives the entire army +1 on their reinforcements, and yeah, he did have that one.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because that's because OD, like a lot of their effective units that want to do a lot of the heavy lifting in their lists tend to be heavy. So I've been seeing, especially out of you guys, like taking that upgrade on the Ziliarch to help getting your heavies, because you're usually taking more of them than traditionally you would in other factions, to get those heavies out onto the table faster or more consistently, at least.
Or just single heavy lists.
Or that.
It sadly did not help Steve in this game, because his other 2 heavies didn't show up until 4 anyway. But he made me have to rethink my deployments, because I obviously pushed the initiates up towards the middle objective in the on the right hand, or on my right hand side for that game. And played a kind of refused flank, tapering down toward basically my range units kind of towards the middle, and tapering down towards the hold warriors, kind of holding my home objective, and just kind of there to keep things off of it. But we had like impassable terrain on each side of the board in the middle, so somebody could have like ran something around that terrain to kind of keep it out of the fight and go into the enemy's backline. And he actually ran one of those Bone Golem units down that way, which forced me to keep the Ironclad away from the initiates, which I really don't like doing unless I absolutely have to. But I had to keep it over there to kind of meet that threat whenever it finally made its way around. And then he decided to go for a pincer with his other stuff. So as the initiates moved up onto the midfield on the right, the Varangians showed up. I had just wheeled them towards the center, so the Varangians showed up on their flank from reinforcement on the other side. But his second Bogolm unit, he kind of misplayed because they showed up more or less where the original or the first one had originated. But he didn't want to like follow them in their steps because they would just be out of the game forever. But they still like showed up in the far corner of the board, away from where all the action was. So it just took them forever to get into the fight anyway. And even the Varangians showing up on that corner, like my initiates just literally flipped on the spot and met the challenge. So he tried to collapse in with that pincer, but that's, like I said before, that's usually a really bad idea into refuse flank. And even by the time, like, he pushed up with the Praetorian block to kind of try to take some of the heat off the shooting for his bone golems, but they all just got shot to crap and didn't end up doing anything. And by the time the bone golems actually made their way to my home objective, I was already starting to clean up all of his other things, and the warriors in the Ironclad were already in place to deal with it. But I did have to actually, like, I expected him to meet the challenge on the midfield more head-on than trying that pincer, so I actually had to readjust the fire force to go deal with the imminent threat on my other flank.
I do like how he made you move around a bunch to try and like disrupt your lines, at least.
Yeah, and we talked about it after the game. I think if he had followed, because I had to do that with the original Bone Golem deployment to meet that threat on the home objective. So if he had followed that up with actually just dropping both of the other heavies right down in the middle where basically all my range stuff was, that would have forced my initiates to have to come all the way around, step off that objective, leave my Warlord Drake on that home objective because he was supporting the initiates block. And he would have had a much more concentrated front to actually cause some damage into my fire force and everything else. But he split his forces, and like I said, one of those Bone Golem units was completely out of the fight for most of the game anyway. And the Varangians, as good as they are, they do not handle. I think he actually ended up march charging my initiates with those as well. And then the initiates did their thing, and the regulars smacked them around. And yeah, it didn't end up going well for him by the end of that. And I think the victory ended up being like 40 something to something else, 46-4. That was it. Oh,
good! Good to hear. Well done on your victory. I find with head-to-head, a lot of players will fight over that middle objective, and then as the game goes on and kind of like as all the reinforcements come out, someone will try and be sneaky and try and run down and go capture their opponents, and there's like a little fighting over there. So it's like you still need to defend it, but not put too much there, because then you're not winning that middle fight where a lot of the action's happening. Do you tend to find that happens like 9 times out of 10? Because that's what I find happens all the time.
Yeah, that's basically how that scenario is designed. Like, if you're looking at it with whatever setup you have, you want your main, wherever the most of the gravity of your list is, that's going to be showing up on the middle field objective, and then you're going to try to force your opponent to allocate more resources than they want to towards the home objectives and fighting over that. That's why I thought like Steve had deployed the perfect amount of pressure onto, given what his list could do, he deployed the perfect amount of pressure onto my home objective with that single Bone Golem block. Because like I said, that pulled my Ironclad Drake away from where I wanted to go. And I had to actually move the Fire Force over to deal with that potential threat. He just didn't follow it up well enough with proper pressure on the other spots.
Okay. Is Steve someone you practice a lot with, or is just like a buddy you know?
No, but Karl does.
Oh, okay.
And I from what like we talked about it after the game, and like I'm very much of the opinion that Steve is a very good player, but he is held back by Old Dominion. But B, he does like I see my own mistakes that I make a lot, and what he did there, where you kind of like you get a little bit fancy and you try to commit a little bit like it's almost like cheesing play in StarCraft. I'm sorry if this metaphor goes way past everybody, but like you learn how to do one cheese, and then the like cheese play or build, and then that fails, and you're like, oh shit, I don't actually know how to follow this up with, or you just don't know how to follow it up with. Get out, you child.
Oh my god.
Reaver dropping.
Oh god.
Only Zerg Rush. That's all I remember. Zerg Rush.
Yeah. Zerg was my faction, and let me tell you, eating all of those delicious workers with the Zerglings is what gave me life for many of my teenage years. But yeah, he got a little bit fancy with it, and he just didn't follow it up right, and that just ended up costing him.
Damn. Well, nice job on your win. Karl, Ben, I heard you guys might have played some very interesting opponents in round 3. Karl, you're up first. Who'd you play?
I don't
just
think
some
that was an
nobody.
interesting game. Yeah.
Yeah, we can skip it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
irrelevant.
suggest that you guys go on to the Miniature Managers YouTube channel and you watch that game.
Yeah.
I don't
Me
really
too.
want to spoil it, and everybody should see that game. Karl and I played, and it was the best competitive game I have ever played of any miniatures game.
So
And I have been playing these games for 25 years.
you guys seem to have a lot of fun. I do remember there was like 30 minutes left on the clock for the round, and you guys were at like turn 6, and Stravos was like, "Oh, I don't know if they're gonna finish," and then it was like, "It's done," and time hasn't been called.
Yeah, we'll touch
There
on
was
that
a
little
minute
bit.
left, but yeah.
Hey, you still did it. It's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the first 5 turns of the game were developing the board and like getting everything set up, and then we're able to play very quickly because it's just resolving what's there. It's like a game of chess when you play at a relatively high level, which I don't in chess. Don't get me wrong here. But those guys, it's making all the choices, and then once the board is decided, you're kind of in the like mate in 20 moves thing, but you have to play out the 20 moves. And Conquest has a lot of that. The choices become very obvious and very linear once you've set up where everything is. Because once all the units are on the table and they're all in their positions, there's kind of only one thing they can do.
That's to kill and just kill.
Yeah.
Don't stop killing.
Yeah. Final score was 32-31.
Jesus, that is close. I've watched it, but I was kind of editing while I was watching it. You guys were kind of just on the TV.
Yep.
Yeah,
I scored the 4-point zone, and Karl scored the 3-point zone on the last turn. On turn 10.
I finished up the game with Steve, and I walked over for like the last 10-15 minutes of that game, and Jeff had been watching like, I don't know, for like at least an hour of actually finished this round really early. And I sat next to him, I was like, how's it going? And Jeff's like, this is the closest thing I've ever seen. I have no idea what's going to happen. Pulled me right in.
So, do you guys want to talk about it a little bit to give people an idea, or is it just go watch Miniature Manager, watch the whole game? Because like I would recommend people like listeners to actually go watch that game. It is very good.
We can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, watching it on 1.25 speed or 1.5 helps. I do enjoy the commentary, mostly because it's a little funny. Like, the assumptions that are made about our gameplay and that kind of thing.
I think I messaged you actually when I was watching it, where I'm like, man, the commentary is really funny. And then Cass and I were going to be, Cass was going to be my color commentator as I try and spew actual sense.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a portable reference to non-Canadians necessarily, but I was going to be like a less problematic Don Cherry. Well, just problematic in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, more palatable ways.
More palatable. Yeah, that's the correct choice. Do you guys know who Don Cherry is?
No.
Oh,
No.
He's a Canadian icon of hockey commentary.
I'm going to post the techno song that he made.
He made a techno song?
Yeah, it's called, I think it's called Rock'em Sock'em Techno. Sorry, all the Canadians are going to love this part. Everyone in America, I guess, is just fucked. Sorry, everyone.
You guys
Anyway,
need to learn about
back to
Canadians.
the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, this joke is too Canadian, and I'm too free to understand it.
Oh, that was good. All right, so you guys have played a ton of games into each other. You knew everything was going on. So let's kind of break it down in like sections of your match. For the first bit of your development, was like, Karl, what were some of the things you were looking for to try and gain advantage over Ben when you were developing your pieces?
We know each other's lists essentially hand in and hand out. We know exactly how this matchup works. So basically what happens is, like, I have to counter deploy his VCI into Strix. He's just kind of using his Strix as a stopping tactic. I guess so. Rolling in my Strix. So one of my Strix came in on turn 1 with my other lights. One of them didn't come on until turn 3. That hurt because my ideal play is to, since I can outstall him on turn 1, is to bring on my Force-Grown drones and then have both Strix get ready to pile on the VCI, because he can stop one of them, but he can't stop both.
Yeah.
And then that's just throwing them into auto charge clash range. No matter what he does, he's getting hit with Strix, and that's the best way to burn through the VCI there. But really, I mean, it was a very separated board with the terrain, with the impassables in the center, so it was very much two fields of combat.
Ben, at the early parts of the game, what was your defense against Karl? Like, what was kind of going through your head a little bit?
So I knew that it was going to be a tight game, and I knew I was going to have to grind to try to win his zone and take it late game after he had deployed his Force-Grown drones. So I was just trying to prevent him from scoring the center zone as long as possible until he had committed a bunch of things. And then I also knew I needed to get at and deal and tie up or kill his marksman clones. His marksman clones' melee capabilities proved too much for my remaining Avatara stand, which made me very sad later on in that game. But my Strix pretty much just had to keep him off of scoring the zone until my Incarnate Sentinels could go have the knockdown drag out against a giant unit of Force-Grown drones. The Incarnates do really well in that. The Aura of Death is really good, so I can create a situation where I can win that zone from him, but if I can force him to commit enough stuff to that side of the board, I'll still probably lose it, but I might be able to win the other zone, and if I can win the other zone, I will be able to get enough victory points from it being worth 4 versus 3, as long as I can keep him from scoring the large zone enough times. So that was pretty much my whole game plan there.
Okay. Once you guys got to the part where you kind of developed all your pieces, and it's kind of at the peace trading point where you guys are finally going to be hitting each other. I think that was around turn 6. Karl, what was kind of going through your head at that point?
I mean, honestly, not much. It really it's just kind of the game plays itself at that point. I know what I need to do, he knows what he needs to do, we know how to stack our decks, we know where the buffs need to go. I'll take a quick second, after my Force-Grown drone block got killed, and deciding what I wanted to go down fighting into with the Executor. That took 10 seconds to think about, but other than that, it really just plays itself. There was a funny one where they were the casters were absolutely positive that I'd misplayed by putting brute drones, or putting my Pharaoh brute drones into his Pharaoh brute drones instead of putting them on the objective. But there was no way that I was going to score the zone, and because of just stand counts, and because I had another Force-Grown unit behind, there was no way he was going to score the zone either. So.
Yep. But yeah, I agree. There wasn't a lot going through my head. I think the most prevalent thought was, VCI, please stop failing me so that I don't lose this other flank, because they had rolled so bad for me the first 3 times they shot. And it came back around, like dice almost always do, as long as you can just keep yourself in the game until they have a chance to. But yeah, those brute drones, Karl's brute drones lived longer than they should have, because the VCI did not want to be outputting their requisite amount of hurt.
You're underfeeding them. That's what's going on.
It's true.
So, how did the game close out? Karl, how did it end for you?
Yeah, he got my onslaughts, came on and killed Avatara, and then just kind of had to sit there for the rest of the game. He eventually got his VCI around to shoot them, gun them down, and get onto the point. I was just holding the opposite end, so it was kind of we each won one theater, and he just got a little bit more points from his, and that's really what it came down to. I mean, there were no large operating mistakes on either side. There were just we played a damn good game of Conquest, and yeah, no regrets. I mean, I had locals asking me how I felt after it, and losing by that little. I'm just honestly, that's the best game that I've ever played. So,
nice.
No complaints.
Yeah, I feel the same way. My only regret in that game is I had moved my brute drone over, and my plan was to charge marksman clones, and I thought maybe I could kill him for like 2 extra victory points, and then I saw the back of his brute drone, his brute drones, and I was like, oh, this'll, and I just in the moment, because I was going so fast, was like, oh, this'll stop him from moving on to the point, and that's like 3 VPs, so which is worth 1 because he'll kill this unit, and then he just like reformed and killed me, and I was like, oh yeah, I just wasn't thinking about that. I was just dumb, and I wish I had charged those marksman clones. Plus, it would have been a fun moral victory to kill them.
Yeah. After they killed the Avatara, that was, yeah.
I was very sad about that.
Karl took the moral victory.
It was payback because I think the Avatara should have died between the Brute Charge Clash and the Marksman Volley, and they just got pretty lucky, or some good, not lucky, but some good dice rolls into the Brutes. Left them a lot better off than they should have been.
No, I'm really glad you guys had like this level of game. It was good. You even messed up the casters. What's even better, they're like, these guys don't know what they're doing, and it's like, no, they do know what they're doing.
Oh my god! Like 25 minutes into the fucking thing, Ben turns around his VCI, and the caster's like, "Oh yes, he's baiting in the Strix with a rear charge." It's a very. I was like,
no, I was just shooting things.
Doesn't everyone knows VCI shoot out of their butts and run away?
Yeah,
that's what they do. They do it a lot too.
Yeah. Word formation's a really good rule.
Every Spires player who like starts pulling out VCI, I'm like, look, this is, you got to run a Icon Executor. You run them like 3 or 4 stands, and they are going to be fluid formating. Like they get into range, shoot, turn around, shoot, run off. Like that's their whole stick, and they just. And if you do it well enough and put stuff in the way like chaff, your opponent will never catch them, and they'll last the entire game.
Yeah, and that was because I can't even blame it to a gameplay error. It was if my Strix had come in earlier and I could have actually dogpiled the VCI, it just looks very different because getting rid of the VCI basically just wins that flank. But the Strix didn't come in, and so, we played out the game.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear your like the level of play you guys have between the two. So, congratulations, basically to the both of you. It like I watched that game. If I remember, I'll put the link to it in the description so the listeners can watch it. And I would strongly recommend everyone to watch it if just to get an idea what like high-end Conquest looks like. It's phenomenal.
It's also congratulations to me because Ben mercy killed Karl there, so I didn't have to play him.
Was Karl like one of your what is it? You wanted to like skip him or dodge?
I would humbly say that I think I am Bryan's worst matchup at that entire tournament.
And you know what? That's why he got so far. So come on, Karl.
It worked out. It worked out, is all I'm saying.
No, I'm glad to hear.
It's true. If we had swapped those matchups, maybe I would have won. Or if, I had played better, I could have won.
You should have played the exact same list, both of you. So it was a mirror match.
Like even if I think I have a better matchup into Ben's list, I'm still staring at Ben across the table. So it's not like it's a fucking walk in the park. No, whatever the case be.
Yeah, I heard that man dresses up like Tiger Woods.
Yeah, he did the arm pump and everything. I almost passed out when he did it. Just sheer horror.
I mean, dresses up like Tiger Woods and wears a red shirt like Tiger Woods are slightly different things.
I was waiting for your wife to show up and hit you with a golf club. That was my only way out.
She thought about it, but she doesn't have the ability to teleport.
Why didn't you bring her?
She was home with the dog and the cats.
Good choice.
She'll be at Adepticon though.
Oh man.
Though she'll probably be enjoying Chicago instead of standing in Schaumburg in the game hall while I'm playing Conquest.
Do you bring golf clubs for her, or does she supply her own?
She usually just goes to a local Goodwill or something. She really likes to support those, and just finds whichever one looks rustiest so I have to make sure I stay up on my tetanus.
At least she's keeping you healthy.
Yeah.
Cass, do you have any questions for these three?
Not about the rounds in particular necessarily, but one general observation that I have about these stories is just I'm surprised by how many blowout games everybody had. I guess I wouldn't have expected to see so many like order of magnitude scoring difference games in a tournament setting. So that was a little bit surprising overall to hear about.
Oh yeah, it's common.
I especially find that happens in like the early rounds because it's like random pairing, and then just people who did well kind of start slowly pairing up. But like once you get into later rounds, you start getting into like the people who are trying to win it, or people have a chance to win it. So
we are in fact competent for the most part.
Are you say you're competent at Conquest?
I would say that we are.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully one of you like wins this whole thing, but we haven't got there yet.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, anything could happen. Bryan, do you want to tell us about your round 4?
Sure. This one was also streamed by the lovely channel of Minature Manager, so I recommend you all take a look at that. It was Andrew's Sally Forth 100 Kingdoms orders list. He ran 3 bricks of Ashen Dawn. I think it was like an MSU with the Priory, and then 2 5s.
Holy shit!
One of those also.
It was 2 4s.
2 4s.
And an MSU, and then 3 MSUs a Crimson Tower.
Yeah, Karl played it too, so he remembers it better.
Yeah.
Well, did he have like? Was that it? Was it just all heavies?
Yeah, it was one heavies and a single men at arms with Captain Mage.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, he really leaned into it. So I'll be 100% honest. You can ask both of these guys. I was relishing this matchup. I really wanted to spray AP2 damage all over those Ashen Dawn.
Yeah,
and I was able to do so.
God.
Yeah. So it was Maelstrom, and I deployed my usual refused flank, fighting for 2/3 of the table. The initiates running up towards the center objective, and the Fireforged range contingent kind of just pushing up to the objective on my left, and don't even give a shit what happens to the objective on the right.
Wait, it's Maelstrom? I don't think Maelstrom has objective zones. Sorry.
Objective zones, yeah.
I thought they were markers. I'm like, what the heck?
No, objective zones. He rolled really good on his heavy reinforcements, and brought in 3 of those units so it's like 4 total, if I remember right, on turn 3. So he was able to start the charge pretty quickly. And misheard it and thought that like he rolled everything on, which would have been really, really sad for me. But that thankfully was not the case. But yeah, I actually ended up misplaying a little bit because my Hellbringer Drake, I had tilted the initiates up onto the mineral objective, and the Hellbringer, my Warlord Bringer, was right behind it, tilted as well to kind of cover both sides. So its flank was on the exposed side, and I didn't play it closer to my board edge as I should have, so it actually opened it up to flank charges, but they're only ever going to be march charges. And I had plenty of shooting around that thing to punish any march charge that he did anyway. So it ended up being kind of bait because he launched first the Ashen Dawn MSU with the Priory Commander and a march charge at the Drake. Did a couple wounds, like 4 wounds, I think, with that damage, and then had to pick up that unit by the end of the turn because everything else was sitting there and just shot it off the board.
No.
And he did the same exact thing with a Crimson Tower MSU the turn afterwards, and the same exact thing happened where they did a bunch of wounds, and I think the Drake was down to like 2 wounds left after tokens, which was honestly after bad dice on my part. Like, he should have lived even more comfortably, but it didn't matter right away, and then those got properly picked up by all the shooting. One of the Ashen Dawn, one of the other Ashen Dawn units crashed to the Fireforged on my left flank and took turns to whittle it down enough, only to have to fight Hold Warriors right afterwards while taking take-aim volleys from the Hellbringer Drake behind it the entire time, which eventually whittled them away. And then, yeah, the Initiates and other Hellbringer kind of just ended up whittling away and handling the other Ashen Dawn brick and the Crimson Tower on the other side too. So we talked about it after the game, and it's the same mistake I've talked about before. And Andrew identified it immediately. Like, he's a good player. I don't think he just played in that kind of way gun line list as well as, or as often. Well, he was actually part of Deco's play group, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's just used to getting shot in the face by Fireforged.
Yeah, the first thing is that he popped his supremacy a turn way too early. Like, he popped it the turn that the Ashen Dawn made the first charge into my Hellbreaker Drake, which clearly didn't work out for him, and then he didn't have it as the rest of his stuff just came in piecemeal, and I was just able to pick it up every single time he made a move with those knights. So, yeah, you can watch that game over on Miniature Manager. It was a pretty straightforward fight. It was a good game. Andrew's a great player and a fun guy, so we enjoyed ourselves throughout the whole match. So, yeah, I think I ended up winning that one like 16-6 or something. Maelstrom's not a really high score game, at least of all for Dwight.
No, it's just get on the zones and kind of score the little bits you can as you fight it out. I haven't watched that game yet, but I'll be glad too, knowing that Ashen Dawn just gets shot to death. I've like playing a 100K, especially like Ashen Dawn into Dwight. It's still a rough matchup. Just your shooting is so good, especially if you castle well and set it all up, and you did it. So well done on you in winning that game. I'll ask some questions at the end, but. Well done. Congratulations on your win round 4. Karl, you lost round 3, but now I hope you get to redeem yourself in round 4. So,
well, I did go 4-1, so it's kind of spoilers. But
hey, we can't do that here.
Yeah, so I played in cover from the Discord. Believe his name was Luis. But very nice, very just eager to learn and get better at the game, which is a significantly better mentality than probably 90% of the regulars on the Nord side of the Discord take. So, massive respect to that. And yeah, it was Maelstrom, as Bryan said. It was really one of those where, with respect to parties involved, it was a nice warm-up match for day 2, especially coming after a loss on day 1 and my food poisoning from Flavortown.
You can weaken him, but you can't kill him.
Yeah, exactly. That Nord list, there's just not much that it can do into Underspires. He had like a couple units of Raiders. One of them had a Shaman. One of them had a Captain. He had a unit of Bosun with the Blooded and like the super shooting specs. He had an MSU of Trolls. Trolls are terrible. Never play them.
Yeah, I heard that from like this competent Conquest guy who has like a Nord's Goblin list. He spams Trolls too much. Bad
yeah,
unit.
Exactly. And then he had a couple units of Fenner with a Vargir Lord, a couple units of Uger, a couple units of fully kitted out Bears Arcs with a Gothi. But basically what happened is Maelstrom, it's an interesting scenario. It's one of my favorites. But he just tried to play wide into Underspires. And you can't really play wide into Underspires because they will beat you at that game. Because if you don't put the Brute Drones down, they will come back and kill you. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. He was doing just enough damage to wipe a Brute Drone and maybe put another wound on. And then I would heal a stand back and just murder it. I did show him a lot about peace trading, because what happened on one of our flanks is basically 2 units of Brute Drones cleared 2 Fenner, 2 Ugers, and a Bears Arcs.
Oh my god.
Just because I set up the peace trades, so he would come in, do some wounds, then I would hit his flank and kill the unit, then hit another flank and kill another unit. So I think it was a very informative game for him. Which that's always really nice. So it ended up being like 37-3 or something. And yeah, just all around, it was very nice to play him, and I think he learned a lot. So all in all, a good game.
Oh, nice job to your opponent. I'm glad that he's picking it up and understanding it more after playing this. Like one of the big things I really like about tournaments is that you get so many games in that you actually learn a ton about the game and improve a ton just by playing in a tournament, because it's just game after game after game, and that's why I really like events and tournaments.
Yeah, you learn more from losses than wins. That's just it's the thing, and like you just have to be honest about yourself, and take accountability for losing because of your own mistakes, because obviously everyone gets diced down sometimes, but if you lose to your own mistake, you can't pretend that it was something else, because that's not how you get better.
No, every loss I've had, I can identify a mistake what led me there. Except against Ben, but then it was a lot of tiny stuff that just added up what I saw at the very end of the game. So
that's usually how I like to get my wins.
just cut them with like your little knives.
I mean, it's just make tiny incremental things like gain advantage a bunch of times, and then somehow the game's over and you win.
Well, nice job, Karl. So you got so now you're currently 3-1. So you're doing well still. Yep. Ben, what's your game number 4?
Oh, I won.
Oh, okay, cool.
I played against the
spoilers.
The other Spire player in the tournament. I believe there were only 3 of us. And he was bringing double Siegebreaker Behemoth, 2 units of Vanguard clones, both rocking a High Clone Executor. He had 2 units of Avatara, and his Lineage Highborn was in one of them. And he just kind of and he had a Ferromancer in an Onslaught drone unit. He had a lot of characters. I don't think he had no shooting.
But he had VCI with
no, he had Vanguard clones.
Okay.
Regular sword clones, each with a character. It was a.
Do you want me to ask the question? Were you scared of the Siegebreaker Behemoths?
No, I mean, Siegebreaker does not have enough attacks to scare anything right now, except I guess maybe Ashendon, because that's the only thing the attacks are actually mathematically efficient against. Yeah, he just kind of came on piecemeal, and everything that walked onto the board just kind of died. I believe the only unit I lost that game was Strix. I scored most of the available points in Maelstrom, and he scored no points. It was pretty bad.
Was it like from your end like a textbook cleanup kind of thing, like just one of those games where you just kind of dominate the table and just take it all?
Yeah, his stuff just kind of came on piecemeal and then just got shot. Like he was like, run Avatar on, and I was like, shoot them, break them, and he's like, oh, next turn I guess rally them and walk forward. And I'm like, okay, charge them. He march charged me a couple times with things that I don't know why. Like it was the classic march charge for a couple of impact hits, but then just get clashed. So I think he might have. I don't know if he's like new to Spires, but he really just needed to move his army more as a unit instead of a bunch of individual pieces. I had favored better than Karl did from Flavortown, but I was on not a lot of sleep and feeling like pretty out of it going into that game. And it was a little better by the time I got to my game with Bryan, but I don't remember that one very well. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No,
the one distinctive thing that I remember about that round was because Dan messaged us in a chat and was like, dude, this guy just got like all of his heavies on into Bryan on turn 3. And I was like, oh shit, is Bryan actually going to lose this? And then like 10 minutes later, I get the text from Bryan and he's like, nah, he didn't. And he just donated a unit of Ashen Dawn, so I'm feeling pretty good. And then I just look up and Bryan gives me like the okay and just has this goofy ass grin on his face.
It was the moment he picked up that first Ashen Dawn unit. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be fine. We're gonna be okay. Like when you lose an Ashen Dawn unit for 4 wounds on something, that's not good.
Yeah, I have a game against my local Dwight player who comes over and him and I play, and There's a time where I just like ran Ashen Dawn forward, and they got like shot up and burned to death by Drake and Tempered Wizard and Fireforge, and I was just like, fuck this, I hate this game. I'm an idiot, but man, I can be grumpy right now. But it was like 100% my mistake, and I should have just like backed off and kept scoring the zone and just stayed out of shooting range, and it was just like, nope, gotta run them forward, because that's a great idea.
It was like, because I used to play against my old man all the time, and when he got, when the Ashen Dawn released, he was like, yes, finally, 100 Kingdoms will have something that can finally deal with these fucking Dweg that I've been trying to beat all this time. And then he tried them, and then Dweg did what they Dweg do to him. And this was pre-Adepticon 2023 days, so I was still tossing Turn-of-Tide Flame Walls and all the other fucking nonsensical shit, and he was like, yeah, this is not what I was hoping for. It's just a bad matchup for them.
Did you bring your old man to LVO? Like, this sounds like you should have brought your old man to LVO.
No, but he did watch the live stream of me versus Ben, so I got a nice email.
Oh, that's sweet.
Waiting for me there, yeah.
You gotta bring him to Adepticon? This guy sounds way cooler than you guys.
Probably is.
Sweet.
He's literally an old version of me with all the good and bad that entails.
Oh boy.
From my own development, so.
This guy's gonna be the best. And you know it.
We played all the time back in Warhammer Fantasy days, and he used to win tournaments with Skaven all the time. So yeah, he knows his stuff. Like when we talk about, like, this is one of the things with Ben's channel that because Ben's been talking about how people messaging him being like, our games at Conquest never look like this. I literally have messaged my dad since then and been like, you should feel a little bit vindicated because our games at Conquest looked like that, where you actually had flanks turning left and right. So yeah, he knows this stuff, and that's part of the reasons why I'm as somewhat competent as I am.
You were trained by the previous generation to be good.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, well, congrats to your old man for being a great mentor to you.
Hey, thanks, Dad.
Shout out to Brian's dad.
Shout out to Brian's dad.
Well done, Ben, on your win. Was it round 4?
Yeah.
Sorry about, I guess, Flavortown just kicking the piss out of you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not our best decision. Like, we should. I would not go there again.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm the only one who remained unbowed from Flavortown.
So did you? Yeah. So Brian, did you eat the Flavortown, or?
I did.
Oh, so you just have a cast iron stomach? Is that what I'm hearing?
You better freaking believe I survived off Taco Bell in my entire college career.
Oh my god!
It was really funny because Steve really wanted to go to an Ethiopian place, and we were just too tired, so we went to Flavortown. And
if Flavortown had its way with him,
you took a turn down Skid Row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Cass, any questions for these guys?
No, that was. I feel like I never have questions, so I always feel stupid when that comes up because I'm always just like, no, everybody said a bunch of good stuff, and I'm happy.
I feel like you just like being here.
Yeah, just here to have a great time.
Thank you, Don Cherry. It's always great to have you.
Trust us. It's not 2-3 weeks when this gets. Yeah, I know. I'm insufferable. But when this gets up on the YouTube and some Canadians see it, these jokes are going to land like hell, and I'm going to be vindicated.
Yeah, this is what we do. All right, let's get on to it. So, Brian,
you guys want to hit?
Go ahead, Karl.
I was going to say, do you want to hit me first for round 6 so that you guys can finish with the champion round?
Okay, fine. We'll do Karl first because he asked so politely.
Because Brian and Ben played each other.
I know they played each other, but all right, Karl. What? Who'd you play round 6? I thought it was 5 rounds.
Yeah, sorry, round 5. Round 6 was the steakhouse.
Were you destroyed?
Oh my god, that steak.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that steak.
Yeah, we will. So round 5 I played Andrew, who was Brian's round 5. And it's a little ironic because Ashen Dawn is a very painful match for Underspires. I do tend to normally think that the 2 blocks of 5 Ashen Dawn is a little better than smaller blocks, multiple smugglers. But in this case, it definitely put the hurt on. And partially, I hadn't practiced bulwark enough, and it almost cost me the game. It basically ended up, he killed everything except a block of 4 Scrones and a Brute Drone, and they just sat there scoring. Jesus. On the point, because we played bulwark. So I rushed my objective and the center. and started scoring a turn earlier than he did. And then he killed his objective and my warlord, and then we just basically scored the entire game. We scored out, and so I won by 2 points because I started scoring a turn earlier. But I realized later that if I had put a single unit of brute drones or onslaughts on the left flank and double scored for 1 turn, there's basically no way that he can come back from that. So that was definitely a mistake that I made, and I should have been practicing bulwark more. But all in all, it was a very good game, and Andrew is definitely a good opponent, good at the game, and it's how I became the the walking advertisement for beer and pretzels Conquest.
Yeah. I love that.
Is he the one who took the photo?
Dan's the one who took the photo, so Andrew and I are in that photo, because Dan just walks up, Rolo, or the judge, and he hands each of us a beer, and he's like, "Hey, I need a photo."
Oh yeah, were you guys like clinking it?
Yeah.
Yeah, across the table. No, that's really good. I do like that photo. It's really good. You're wearing the neon blue shorts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. I do actually own jeans.
Lies.
And I think I wore sweatpants one of the days.
What was it? There would be like a photo bomb between rounds, and I would go through them and be like, "Where the fuck is Karl?" Just trying to, and then I'd see like the blue shorts out of the corner, and your like face is blocked and most of your body. I'm like, "That's him." It's the hunt for Karl. Well, congratulations and well done on second place after everything was said and done. So, like, still keeping it strong. You're consistent.
Very consistent.
Yeah. So, when you go to Worlds, are you aiming for first, or are you going to maintain the consistency?
I would like first, but I
feel
expect
like second place is like the bigger flex by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like, if I can, because, right, I've already taken second place at, like, I think every major North American in the last year.
Yeah.
I might be forgetting a couple that I just didn't go to, but, like, it was Adepticon, Gen Con, Michigan GT, and now LVO, so at this point, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. So how many silver gnomes, fish gnomes you got? Or are they still
I have 3 silver fish gnomes.
So
it's funny because I have won more first places in Conquest than second places. I won Motor City Mayhem, and I've won every local event except for like one where I played City States because City States aren't good. But
they're in a rough spot.
Yeah.
Poor Minotaurs. Mostly poor Phalanges, my god. So are you ever gonna like melt those trophies down and like make yourself like a breastplate out of silver gnomes?
I think they're plastic, unfortunately. But I think the actual thing is I'm just gonna take a photo of my Adepticon medal from last year, all of my like the Warlord, Conqueror, little things that you get for the locals, and then my fish gnomes, put it all in a photo, and just anytime someone responds to me on the Discord with a really stupid response, I'm just gonna post that photo in response.
It's gonna be like the new what was it? The new bird gif? It's just you.
Well, the bird gif is funny because like it's caught on more now, but yeah, that's funny because it's usually people who do actually know that are saying we just don't know.
Yeah, God. Well done. So, should we get into the final battle, final showdown, countdown? Pick a destiny here?
The comedy of errors game.
Yeah. If I recall correctly, this one is also on, what is it? What's the guy's channel? Miniature
Manager?
Yeah, Miniature Manager. I was going to say Miniature Market, but I'm like, no, that's a place that sells minis.
That's a different thing.
It is a different thing. They sold a lot of War Machine minis when I used to play. So I will also link that one in the description if you want to watch it. Strongly recommend to find out who won and how they did, but I'm assuming these guys are also going to tell us. So, Bryan?
Don't tell them.
Son of a... Do you want me to go watch it and then keep you all here?
No.
Okay, so you're going to tell me about it?
Yeah, let's keep this going for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
We'll just sit in silence while Mass watches that game and it comes back to report us.
Bryan, why don't you
Oh,
take
God.
this away?
All right. What the hell? We played Bulwark. I was just bitching about that damn scenario. But yeah, we played Bulwark, and we alluded to it at the start of this whole thing. But the terrain setup on there was intense, to say the least. There was 2 giant impassable pieces. We agreed on them being impassable at the start of the game, with literally like less than an 8-inch gap between them. Yeah, right on the center of the board.
Pretty sure that's illegal.
That's how they set it up. So we kind of just rolled with it. And then enough terrain scattered besides where, I'm looking at this terrain board as a Joy player, and it's so clearly advantaged in my direction. At least militarily, right? Because there's only so many, Spires wants to collapse in and just overwhelm whatever units I put forward with numbers. And there was just no way for him to be able to do that anywhere because there's just a tight lanes no matter where he went, and I would be able to set up my guns in that way. So I basically deployed over to the right side of one of those buildings, the one that was closer on my end, with the intention of trying to shoot out the marker, the enemy marker on one of the zones, as that scenario was set up for.
Yep.
And to try and take that spot and forego the left-hand side, which is honestly quite a mistake. Looking back on it, especially when Ben comes in and talks about his strategy or what he should have done for it, it will become more apparent. But yeah, I made a couple of big mistakes with the deployment out of the gate. Because that gap in the middle was so slim, I should have actually deployed the initiates. I usually ran them 4 wide throughout the whole tournament. They should have been 3 wide because they couldn't actually wheel through that fucking gap as a 4 wide. And I was like, crap! It was off by just a half inch or so. So I was going to have to waste an activation just reforming and then marching through. Which hilariously did not matter anyway because Ben's VCI, the HCE, just popped off on my initiates. It brought him down to 2 stance plus the reg.
Yeah, that was not expected. I was expecting them to still be 4 wide and be stuck there.
Oh, they're making up for that Karl game.
Yeah. The math mathed too hard in Ben's favor, and it actually worked out for me because then the initiates were able to storm through that gap and catch the VCI and put him in the ground over the course of a couple turns. But then, Ben deployed his incarnates over to my strong flank, which he talked about a little bit before. Ended up being a mistake because it's kind of the game Dwight wants to play anyways. Come meet my guns. If he had played to the other flank with that incarnate sentinel block, he would have been able to outrun the game with the scoring. Because it would have taken me way too much time to actually kill the marker on my side or on the right side that I had deployed to.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since the other misplay I made out of the gate was that the Balliste, I played him in the middle to try and clear the middle marker, but Ben was always going to be able to clear that marker because he actually had the lights to do it with. He had a Strix and the VCI sitting right there, able to do the damage on that marker. So it actually really needed to be to the right to start clearing out the right side zone so I could actually score it in time. But if you had deployed those sentinels over to the other side, not only do you just run away with the scoring, but that completely turns the terrain back against me because now I got to funnel everything through that freaking thing gap like some kind of constipated old alcoholic, and it would not have gone well for me whatsoever.
Beautiful.
That's some truly wordsmithing right there.
Hey.
So Ben, how did you not defeat the constipated old alcoholic?
I mean, I deployed my Incarnate Sentinels on the wrong side. Ultimately, yeah, everything Bryan said is true. We've talked about this game a lot. We all went out to dinner and had steak and stuff afterwards. So we've discussed this a lot. And he hit the nail on the head. I made a lot of plans. I was like, all right, I'm gonna make sure I kill the marker that's in my right zone. I pre-measured it. I was like, okay, I'm going to move the Avatar up. I'm going to make sure they're in range so I can give them +1 march so they can't fail their charge, so they can charge Clash on 3. I made sure to bring in an Avatar, things like that. So I had everything pretty well planned in order to get the scoring, and I got ahead. I was up 14. I was up 14-0, and then just deployed Incarnate Sentinels in the wrong place. And then I kind of doubled down on that choice and tried to get them in the game fighting, and it just wasn't it wasn't right. When I did commit them, I didn't think that he was going to be able to charge me because I looked at the terrain piece that was over there. But sometimes when you're looking at the board from different angles, things are hard to see, right?
Mhm.
Like when we both got down on the board and looked at it, his Ironclad definitely could charge. About 2 millimeters of my stand, but very clearly about 2 millimeters of my stand. And it didn't look like it when I made the charge in. So that was a sad day. That was a sad moment.
It's like the
because,
most value the Ironclad got that entire fucking tournament.
Yeah.
Was that charge.
Yeah, so I was a little bummed about that because I thought I was going to be able to turn the other flank and like really run away with it. But ultimately, like I misdeployed them in the first place, and it never should have come to that. I'll blame Flavortown a little bit, but mostly we just didn't test that scenario much, so I didn't realize how big of an advantage 14 points was. And I didn't realize that I could actually, the old phrase is don't like just rest on your laurels, but I was in a situation where I could. That was enough of a lead that if I had just thrown everything to the other side of the board, there's no coming back from that. He was not going to be able to kill that marker fast enough, and he certainly wasn't going to be able to clear me off, having to get past all of that terrain. He wasn't going to be able to clear me off of my side fast enough to score it more than maybe once, even if he tabled me. But probably it was just going to bottleneck him enough. He wouldn't have been able to table me fast enough to ever really score that zone.
Should just
It's
him. Go ahead.
It's actually really fascinating looking at it again because, like I said, like the terrain seemed to favor me so clearly militarily, but with that play, he would turn it right back against me. So if I were looking at that game again, especially since, to Ben's point, like we didn't test Bulwark at all. Like I think I played maybe one fucking Bulwark match with Karl weeks before LVO, so it wasn't exactly...
I think it was before Michigan GT even, in October.
Guys.
Yeah, so that one, like, and looking at it again, like I really should have actually...
You still there?
Can you...
Hello?
There we go. He's back. Okay.
I'm back, okay.
You kind of cut out midway.
Sorry, where did I lose you?
You were looking at Bulwark. You'd played it with Karl before Michigan GT.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of about there, and then you died in a silence.
Not to me. I heard you the whole time.
Same.
I need to hear him, so I make sure that's recorded.
Basically, I'm thinking that I should have actually deployed to the opposite flank that I did, because I can actually score that zone, and I can make it very painful because I'm so ranged heavy for Ben to even clear the marker off the zone that he needed to clear. And then my ballista gets free dibs on the opposite zone, or the opposite marker, I should say. So it was honestly like we both misdeployed, like pretty horrendously if you really like play out how that match is supposed to go. But between just not knowing the scenario as well as we should have, the terrain being freaking weird, that's what I mean when I say it's like a comedy of errors. And ultimately that game just came down to like Ben just happened to make the slightly harder blunder, and that's just how it went.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously you're picking a thing, right? Like on turn 3, when I deployed my Incarnate Sentinels, I had the ability to win that game, and I didn't see it, so I messed it up. But yes, I think like we both misdeployed. Well, I think you misdeployed, and like you said, you misdeployed for the scenario initially because we hadn't really tested it.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a really interesting mirror to Karl and Ben's much more like, honestly, copyright, trademark, competent Conquest game of round 3. Where, like they said, they deployed properly, made their initial movements, and then kind of just played the game out from there, right? And it goes to show how important that deployment phase is, where Ben and I can also play a 10-round, or, you could see it on 9, I think, but pretty much a full game, and we can look back to a move on turn 3 and say, this is where you lost it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's, Conquest is actually kind of a really interesting game in that a lot of early decisions just stack up to the point where it's like you lost because of something really early that you thought was non-consequential. and it's every point in the game matters.
Yeah.
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 I mean, the first 3 turns of the game are the most important turns of the game.
Yeah.
They set up the stage for every choice and maneuver that you're able to do, and they kind of create like the entire game. And like it's not like the other turns don't matter, but as in the game that Karl and I played, very quickly, like the second half of the game was much faster. We were able to play it very quickly because we had positioned so carefully early that, you know, once everything's out, like it's not like there's anything. You're not gonna not charge, right? You're not gonna not go Inspire, Clash, and roll dice. You're mostly rolling dice the second half of the game because everything's already committed.
Yeah, especially like putting something on one side of the table, and you're like, yeah, you know what, it'll get to the other side. Yeah, in like 3 years.
Yeah, it doesn't get over there.
No.
Like it's.
Especially a Dweg. Like that's like with 0 movement shenanigans and 0 reinforcement shenanigans. Like that shit just matters so much more. That's where the Hellbreaker comes back in, right? Because it actually is movement
Speed
to salvage some of the bad plays.
Speed 7 on that thing, if I recall.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the fastest thing in your entire faction besides the Infernal Automatas.
Right, but you can still misdeploy them, as I've done many a time before, though. So yeah, that shit matters.
Yeah.
One.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one common thread that I noticed throughout the stories of how these games played out is the real like shit cannings and the blowouts and the so-ons. So like not. And to sort of reinforce, sorry, I'm stumbling over what I'm trying to say, but to sort of reinforce how important the first 3 turns are, like, and marshalling, I think, is a big thing that people don't do quite often, because it seems like every game where somebody got smoked, it's because they were just, like, running guys at piecemeal, so.
Absolutely.
I think that's an error that a lot of people make. They want to try and get that, what they think is going to be a vulnerable early kill or things like that, and then they wind up just, like, handing it.
Like I talk about how that's such a bad thing to do into a Dweg gun line, but that's just a bad thing to do in general. Like your army actually needs to fight as an army.
Yeah, I mean that's how my Strix ended up eating an entire Dweg army.
Yeah,
like that's how split deploying into Spires gets every single one of your units just loses to brute drones, because like if your individual units can't beat brute drones in a 1-on-1, then you can't split deploy into Underspires, because you'll just get killed by 4 brute drones in 4 individual fights.
Yep.
I know Sealed Temple can't win into brute drones.
No.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of things not win into brute drones.
They especially if you're running like a bunch of those things, they're fucking annoying.
They're a good unit.
Yeah.
Pretty solid.
Ashen Dawn shred them though, so.
Yeah, but I need the Astronaut to do other shit and then kill brute drones.
Thankfully, most people got only their 1 MSU of brute drones from the OG starter and have just never gotten more. So.
Everybody has 3 of that starter.
Yeah.
I only got 1 of them, but I was still in college when that starter was out, so I didn't have money.
Yeah, but
I mean, I bought 1 of them, and then other locals like got into the game, and there were just like halves of them lying around.
I have about 30 household knights in various stages of unbuilt, new in box, built, primed, and then fully painted. That's my household knight life. There's like 30 of them. I'm like, wow, the fuck do I have so many of these fucking things?
It's approximately 5 times what you need.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what though, the Household Knight sculpt is what got the old man and I to Conquest.
Oh, they look
like,
sick.
Check out these crazy fucking knights. I was like, what do you mean? I saw how just the scale alone was different than anything I had seen.
Yeah.
But the actual like look and detail of it, it's just really, really cool.
The scale is what my buddy got my buddy Adam into Conquest at Adepticon 2022. He saw him and he's like, this is so cool. And then he convinced me to play sometime in the summer of 2022, and I was like, all right, whatever. I'll play random games with you on TTS so you can play this game that you're into. And I was like, I love this game so much. And
then 3 weeks later, you won Michigan GT, and then got my VCI nerfed back when I was a scrub, and was getting mad over it.
Yeah, they were really way too good though. So
it
needed to happen.
That's like one of those funny things where like like newer 100k players are like, oh, Ash and Dawn are like unplayable if they get nerfed, or back like when VCI got nerfed after Adepticon, and everyone and a few people in Spires were like, oh, they're unplayable now.
Nah, they're not.
It's like, I promise you, they are not.
Like here,
I think people, if your stuff is getting nerfed, if you're an Ash and John enjoyer and they get nerfed, or you're a VCI enjoyer and they get nerfed, just remember, like, this is enabling other things in your faction to actually get buffs at some point, because there's stuff in your faction that is not good.
Oh,
And
yep.
it's hiding behind the, like, overused, overpowered units. So just look at it as, like, you're gonna have more things, like, more fun toys to play with.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, I'll be honest, I don't want Ash and Dawn nerfed, but something is gonna happen, I know for sure, and they kind of do need it. And I can be grumpy all I want, but I am hoping that when they do get nerfed, other things in the faction do get propped up, because I don't really want to go back to, like, start a version 200k, because it was not a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, there are nerfs coming for Spires that are needed.
Good. They deserve it. Especially after your guys' game.
And, I mean, Robert just won CanCon, so Spires...
As we were talking, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Robert. I hope he listens to this.
Congrats.
Yeah, so Spires are first and then second and third at both major tournaments since Worlds were announced.
Yeah, I don't think Ash and Dawn are the problem.
It's really funny because I think
they're
Spires are just... I think Spires are objectively worse than Nords or 100k.
Yeah, I agree.
There's just no good 100k or Nords players anymore.
I think there's like just one of this is actually something that Stavro brought up in the discussions after the tournament. There's a much bigger disconnect in the kind of players that Nords attracts and what Nords requires.
Yes. Keep going.
Wow, that's
And I don't mean this in a competence or ability at the game or anything like that, but I mean that in a sense of, you think Vikings, you think I'm going to run in and beat the crap out of things, aka Lindisfarne, but what it actually requires is a lot more skillful maneuvering and planning, and kind of just accepting that you're playing for objectives more than killing shit. But that's not the case. Whereas Spires, usually if you're playing Spires, it's because you are in fact a degenerate gamer, and you're going to find the most degenerate stuff to play with, and sometimes you're really good at that, and sometimes you're not.
So most Spires players aren't good.
I played Spires because they were half of the 100 Kingdoms box, and my buddy wanted to play 100 Kingdoms.
Yeah,
That's fair. My very first game of Conquest was as Spires. That's me revealing something about myself there. What do you want to know?
Yeah,
but yeah,
shave your beard.
It's true though. Like, Nords are a faction that are a finesse, board control, like, kind of cagey faction.
Can I interject here really quick? I think the Nords players have to re-envision themselves not as Vikings coming up the coast and sacking a town. They are Vikings going to the church of the town and taking all the treasure and leaving. So go cap objectives.
Just pretend you're Wood Elves. It'll work out a lot better for you.
Is that what you envision?
For Vikings?
Yeah, for Nords Vikings. You just envision them as Wood Elves.
I've played Warhammer Fantasy for like back in the day, and they play very similarly to Wood Elves. Like, they get advantages for being in terrain / ignore the terrain, like, debuffs, and they get advantages for, like, ganging up on things and just trying to stay out of, like, you don't want to get charged, you just kind of literally dance around things until you kill it.
Can you imagine if Nords could, like, move forests like Wood Elves do it? Kind of bullshit.
Well, in Macbeth they can.
Like Macbeth.
Yeah.
Wait, did someone else just say that?
Yeah, I did too. Don't worry, I've seen that movie and that play. Oh, that's good. No, I do appreciate your guys' comments. You guys telling us about your games. Even like, you know, the takes and like what PB staff is thinking about the game in itself and how people play it, because, like, I'll admit there does seem to be a little bit of a disconnect between kind of what factions do, and then getting into them and kind of learning them does take a while, I've found. And not everyone's getting like a ton of games that maybe you guys are getting, or even I might be getting, but it's just, actually thinking about it if you want to improve. So I always give props to a player who plays a game and is like, okay, what could I have done differently to get better, or were some mistakes that I can improve upon? Like, those are the people who I really want to talk to and see, and they will grow because they have a proper mindset to do it.
Yeah. If you play a game and decide that you lost because all your opponent's stuff was overpowered, that's probably not the case, and you're probably not going to learn anything from it.
It's not the case in Conquest. Like, this game stuff, the things that are overpowered are, oh man, it's like my opponent's playing with like 2,100 points, right? Like, you can win that one, guys. It's really, it's not that bad.
Yeah, beating Dwag in the dark days, I would call them, was something, but you can do it.
Yeah, I did it.
Karl
did it.
Ben did it, yeah.
See, these guys did it. And they're just competent at Conquest.
Yeah, we're only competent.
like
Trademark.
Literally all it takes is just a little bit of faith in the game system. That's all it takes. Just being like, maybe the problem is me. Just a little bit.
Like, as I played, so I'll admit to this, as I played more and more Conquest, like, when I first started, it was like, okay, you know what, this is a fun kind of beer and pretzels game, I enjoy it. Got out War Machine, I was like, yeah, maybe, like, and like, I was enjoying Conquest, I was like, okay, it's scratching that tactical itch, there's thought, there's strategies, there's tactics, and there's something deeper going on here. And it took me a while to actually dig into what the deeper part of that is, but I would say in the last month or two, I'm really digging into that deeper part and talking to you guys about your games, talking about strategies, talking about list building, talking about how you guys do it. That really helps me improve my game as well. Playing into Ben and Karl and TTS has really improved my game. I know probably some locals don't like that, but that's fine. And I know for Cassandra, I even comment about this in, I think the battle report's coming out on Monday, but like, Cassandra talked to Ben and Karl about Nords and then took a lot of that conversation and applied it to me and won. So, like, learning from others, digging deeper into the game, like, it is there. I just found it took a little while, but also I was only playing like 2 to 4 games a month, so not really getting a ton of games in at all. So yeah, it does take a little bit, and just getting the amount of games in, it shows.
It's a game that, like, I can speak to this, I guess, a little bit better than a lot of stuff so far in this podcast. Like, the thinking about the game the way that I am at this point, and I'm just a mediocre player versus just like a dog shit one, which is where I started. There's the way that it opens up as you become more familiar with like the sort of advanced play concepts that come up is really like the elegance of the game really starts to show itself, but you have to like get over yourself and get shit canned 100 times over a year to figure that out if you're me, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm going to say this like all the time. We look at ourselves at ACON, where we both placed high, and we're like, those kids don't know shit.
Yeah, no, like we fucking victimize each other from ACON. Like it's not even close.
Yeah,
you guys have come a long way. I'm really proud of you. I really am. Like.
It's genuinely heartwarming and vindicating to hear that. Because I feel like I've come a long way, personally. I know Karl does.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad.
The game's good.
Yeah.
The game's good, guys.
The game's good.
Yeah,
it's worth learning. It really is.
You do have to be able to, like, the only way you are going to get better, and I'll say this as somebody who's improving as well, just to reinforce it for people who are listening, is just like, you probably fucked up if you lost. And that's not fun to face, I guess. Well, I know it's not, because I go home mad every time, but then I think about it, and I'm like, okay, well, these are the places where I probably didn't play that great, and stuff I would do different. But, like, if you don't do that, then you're just going to think that your faction sucks, and you're going to be garbage forever. So I'll put a finer point on it than everybody else.
Nord chat things.
Yeah.
Is that
the finest point?
I didn't want to come right out and say it, but
Oh no, we're just firing shots now.
No, this is all stayed in, by the way, and I love how Carl's just like, no, let's go, bro.
Well, no, because like the people that are actually problems won't think it applies to them, and the people who aren't know that it isn't. So it's fine.
If you're willing to look at your games that you play, and you go, okay, I lost because of something I did. What was it? You didn't lose because of that supremacy roll. You didn't lose because your opponent rolled 50% above average on that clash. You didn't lose because, like, you failed that charge or whatever. Those are not the reason you lost. Like, you lost because, if nothing else, because you were in the situation, because those dice rolls could cost you the game, right? There are choices that you can be made throughout the entire game, and all of those choices compound. And if you had done, sometimes, a bad supremacy roll could be like, man, I needed that would have made up for these like 2 or 3 other mistakes I made, but it didn't, because you made those mistakes to need that supremacy roll. If you need it, you probably screwed up. Or like your opponent outplayed you, but that just, it is impossible for 2 people to play a perfect game of Conquest. Karl and I both made multiple little mistakes in our game, even though we played it very well. It's not big stuff, but there's small positioning things that could have been done differently. Like, I probably shouldn't have charged him with my Strix. Like, it's things that don't change the whole outcome, but they could have been incremental advantages. And you gotta look for every little thing you can take. And if you always do, and you always are looking for what could I have done better, you will get better, and you will win more and more games.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%?
98.3, because I always have that little bit of doubt. But anyway, close enough. 100%. Round it off.
Philosophical.
We always round.
I go into every game assuming I'm going to lose. I have the strongest imposter syndrome in the world.
Yeah,
so.
And you're still doing great. So I thank you for describing your games, even having this kind of after the whole event chat. But I do have some more questions for you guys, and these are the really big ones. You guys ready for them?
Sure.
Yeah, bring it on.
Steak, how was it? Let's talk about that.
Oh my
Go
God.
to Primal if you're in Vegas.
There we go. Let me write that
shit.
down.
I just want to. I'm just going to set the stage and let the other 2 take it away from there. But we all got our various different kinds of steak. Ben got the most ridiculous. I think you got the Wagyu, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we got the same one, Bryan, like the 28-ounce porterhouse.
Yeah, the porterhouse. Yeah,
that was the frugal smart man's choice.
The frugal smart man spending $100 on a steak, but literally every single one of us, the moment we each took a bite of that steak, we all just our shoulders slumped. We breathed out and sighed. We just looked up into the sky. We're like, we've made it. We're there.
Yep.
Everything is okay again. It was so heavenly.
It was, oh man, that place was incredible. The drinks were amazing too. I don't really drink, but I had to. I had to get my bubbling drink in a Viking horn. That place was just badass. I fully, wholly recommend it. It ain't cheap. Look at the prices. Make sure you can afford it. Obviously, but if you're going to LVO, if you're going to Vegas for any reason, it's worth it, man. It's worth it. That place was amazing.
And it's off the strip, so it's cheaper. For what you're getting, it's cheaper than the shit you see at the hotels and that kind of stuff. A lot cheaper, to be honest.
It's not way over. It's not way overpriced. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things that's weird, right? But I mean, I had 28-ounce Australian Wagyu ribeye. That's not going to be a cheap cut of steak, but it was a delicious cut of steak.
It's worth every dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also get the experience of, or at least I did, where I kind of drunkenly stumbled towards the bathroom, and it's past. It's the little hallway leading to the 2 bathrooms.
You're not supposed to spoil it, Bryan.
You know what? Fair enough. I'll say this. I almost had the bathroom moment right outside the bathroom because of what I saw.
Oh my god.
I was not expecting what I saw when I looked up. So, go to Primal. Enjoy yourselves.
Okay, sweet. Good to know. My next question for you guys, the venue. How was LVO kind of itself? How was the booths, everything that was going on? Like, how was the venue itself? Okay, sweet.
I mean, we're Conquest players, right? Like, the dealer hall was very Games Workshop focused. This is where they hold like the final tournament and do the prizes for the Warhammer 40k ITC. It's a 40k event. It's very focused on that. There are other games there, and a lot of them, but we had to walk an extra like 2 hallways down because like the 40k was in the main like ballroom, that type of stuff. So and you gotta expect that. Like that's kind of what happens at conventions. The hotel, I mean, it was at the Rio. That the Rio's old now. Like they're refreshing some of the rooms, but it's not as nice as it used to be. The restaurants there, like, the Kang's place is pretty good. We went to Korean barbecue the first night. That was good, but Guy Fieri's was not great. Hash House was pretty good. The tables were good. Like, it was set up well for a con. We got to, like, play games, effectively, but, like, we were a long way from the refreshment stand. Like, it was a good 15 minutes for us to, like, go get those snacks between rounds. So, which is part of the reason we would hoof it out of there as soon as our round was over.
Gotta run there and run back. You're like, oh, that's half an hour gone.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah,
like 20 minutes, I guess. Like I was saying 15 round trip, but like 15 to 20 minutes, like to go get snacks is, that's a lot between rounds at a tournament, especially if you have ones that go to time. You're just like, oh well, I guess I don't get to do anything.
Just one player starving in the corner. Please, food.
I mean, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Don't play slow at LVO.
Yeah.
So now is there anything else you guys want to mention about like the con itself, the venue, any of that stuff? What we haven't touched on?
Not really.
Yeah, Ben more or less touched on all of it. I'll say that I was fully expecting to, because Ben and Jeff got a room, and then they kindly allowed me to join on in there, and I was fully expecting to have to sleep on the floor, but there ended up being a couch there, so that's nice.
Oh,
that's pretty much the only thing I got to add.
Oh yeah, I got an upgrade on my room so that we got like the nice couch, because it was in one of the refurbished rooms. Literally because my driver's license hasn't been updated yet. So the guy that was checked me in was from the same town that I just moved away from. So he's like, "Oh well, I gotta give you an upgrade then from the same town."
What
I'm like,
are
all right,
the odds?
Yep.
Nice.
It's like, oh, okay. I'm from Sun Prairie. Yeah, sure. I'll say that I'm still in Sun Prairie.
No.
Take that
Bryan
route.
got his army catapulted by the well-intentioned taxi driver.
Oh my god! It just like stepped out of the van and turned around, and my entire bag's on the floor, on the fucking pavement. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it did just fall. Like the guy didn't grab it. I was there when he opened the thing, and it just like fell. And I tried to catch it, but all that ended up doing was I ended up punting it. And then I was like, well, I gotta play hacky sack. So I kicked it like 3 or 4 more times before it landed.
Yeah.
Nothing broke though.
Wow,
I didn't do any of that. But I did watch it fall out when he opened the trunk.
It's good to hear that Conquest Mall is gonna take a beating.
Oh my god, my freaking Hellbringer source for like the one I was using as the Warlord broke on stream against Ben. During that game, like you can actually watch me trying to put the thing back on there.
Don't
And
you
I
have
actually
glue in your
managed
bag?
it with. I did.
Yeah,
I actually
smart.
managed it. He only actually held on by 1 chain. I thought I got all the chains on there. He was literally glued on by 1 chain.
It was all he needed.
All he needed. And as Eric the guy told me when it happened, Dwight break their chains.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. So now,
What are you bringing to LVO Mass? Adepticon.
do you want? Well, Ben already knows.
I do. I've seen it.
Yeah.
No. You should tell me or message me.
I could just tell you right
But
now.
you can do it off
Yeah,
recording.
it's just like 10 Ashendon, 6 Sealed Temple, and then like
6 Household Knights, 6 Mount Squires.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
what we expect, yeah.
Well,
thought
that's
each
the
one
only thing I
was
got like painted. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
No, it was. I think Ben and we played a game. I adjusted from Ben's recommendations, and then I've literally just been playing that the past couple games just to get some practice into a bunch of different things. Just keep myself up on it. And battle reports will come on them, or show them, so people will know what I'm playing and know what my thoughts are and all that stuff. So I'm setting myself up to lose. There's no secrets here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll post my list pretty much right away.
Yeah, like I'm not.
I don't really hide them.
Yeah, I don't have an issue. Like I'm not trying to be like, oh, if I hide them, I'll have that advantage. But like any competent Conquest player who sees it will have a good understanding of what the list is supposed to do, and then play accordingly. TM.
I mean, I'll happily say it right now. From what I know and from what I could tell and from what I could see, I'm probably playing pretty much the same freaking thing at Akon.
Yeah.
So take your notes now, everyone.
Watch those streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just playing Horse Lord. I like. It looks great when it's like kind of fully painted. As I've been painting more of it, it just looks really good on the table. It plays, and I enjoy the play style. It does everything I need it to do, and yeah, it's something I've played a lot of. So that's another really big deciding factor is that every kind of event that was big that I've gone to since I've started the channel has just been running horses, because that's just what I'm familiar with. And if some good advice to anyone who's thinking of going to any major events is bring something you've played a lot of, because it just makes it easier while you're playing the event, because a lot of muscle memory will take over when you play. Yeah.
Test your stuff before the events.
Yeah, like
So-
this is just like years of War Machine.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So I got a couple other questions. Like, if you guys want to ask me more questions, go right ahead. But for you guys, now that LVO's over, well, there's two questions. We can get to the first one. I didn't ask this originally, but like, what was some weaknesses in your list that either got exploited during the event or things that you were aware of that you kind of had to like cover while you played? Brian, you're first, because you were the wiener.
The wiener.
Wiener.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same weakness that pretty much every tempered duelist has, which is I'm just slow onto objectives, right? And obviously, Ben brought it up perfectly too before, where if I'm moving and shooting, I'm very sad. So those two things combined is not great for me. I did have the advantage of I only had really 2 games where the players understood this weakness, being Jeff and Ben. So I'm aware of that, just playing Tempered Drag all the time.
Mhm.
So yeah, those were the 2 matchups where that weakness was exploited the most. That's usually why I end up playing to that refused flank game plan, not only because I'm usually only going to make it up the objective loss, or the being from behind in objectives by winning militarily and then coming back in the later game. So yeah.
Sweet. Thank you for letting us know the weakness that we can defeat you later. Karl, what's your weakness?
Ways of dealing with the characters, to be honest. Like, the Force-Grown Drone Block doesn't want to play cagey around anything, and what if, like, an Ashen Dawn Wedge Charge Clash, or a Sentinel Charge Clash Override, really gives them a bad time. I was able to avoid those in both games where it was relevant, but the fact that I had to jump through some hoops to avoid it definitely led to me having to cede a little bit of advantage and priority.
No, sweet. Ben, are you going to be playing Spires at Adepticon? First
Probably.
question. Okay, so
It'll depend.
Sorry for interrupting you. Please continue.
No worries. It depends. I would like to play City States. City States are not currently in a place where I they're simply just not strong enough in the objective game right now. They're probably not strong enough in the Trisha game either, but they're at least closer in that. But I don't feel like they are a competitive choice for Adepticon. I think there's going to be, as they are written right now, there's at least one round that I'll run into where I just can't compete. Like, I'll run into Nords, or I'll run into Spires, or somebody else, or 100 Kingdoms, who get on objectives very quickly, and on a mission where that's really advantageous, and I'll just be unable to come back. And I can't get myself, like, I want to go to Worlds, so I'm not going to play something that I don't think can compete right now, and that's a bummer, because I would love to play them. But I am currently looking at Underspire for Adepticon. I just my list has one major weakness, and it is AP2 guns. It's all brutes, so they're too tall. I can't really like hide the shots, and you can just kind of stack Fireforged up. And I know Deco's going to be there. I know Bryan's going to be there, and I can't rely on getting scenarios that will give where I can just like score early and get ahead, and have that be enough. So I've got to play a list that has better counterplay into more of the meta. And right now, that's just looking like it's going to be Underspires. So we'll see what what February 8th shows us. But right now, I think that Underspires is the way to go.
Yeah,
I guess I'll double touch or double back, because I think the big thing is just the testing, because there were certain things that my list wasn't even disadvantaged into, but like the Ashen Dawn, I thought the Ashen Dawn list was dead because I was used to the double 5, and Underspires deals with double 5 pretty well. So getting blindsided by the double 4 and the 3 was a little shocking, and I should have been testing into Ashen Dawn, and just need to do that so it doesn't get blindsided again.
Yeah, so that gets into my next question. Karl, are you playing the same list you took to LVO to Adepticon? Seemed really good at it, so...
No, I am not.
It'll
be something Spires and something good. Whatever I come to the conclusion is the best after this next update, but it will likely not stay the same because brute drones are way too good right now, and with my list having a ton of them, and Ben's list having a couple of them, and then Rob, who just won CanCon, having of them, and all three of us being NDA, like they know that brute drones are a problem, and so they, as Parabellum does, will presumably solve the problem. So I'll probably have to tune the list around a little bit.
I'm imagining that Stravos was like calling Leo in the middle of like your guys' game. It was like, nerf these things, nerf these things. It's like 1 a.m. I don't care, nerf these things.
I mean, to be fair though, we would be playing Karl's list if we weren't confident that there were going to be some changes to it.
Yeah, and no, absolutely. Like, if brute drones are untouched in the next patch, I will bring the exact same damn list, and it will be miserable to play against.
Yeah, Perfect. If we can play this exact list as it's written, we will play this list as it's written. I actually have a slightly different version because I hate doubling up on things. I always like variety, so I would have a Biomancer instead of the second Ferromancer. But a very similar list. Like,
I can't wait for the mirror match. But this gets into my main question for the three of you. What is your practice going to look like going from LVO into Adepticon? Like, what are like, you guys have talked about Bulwark being a hole in your practice. What are other things that you guys have noticed that you need to kind of brush up on a little bit going into the next event?
So there's a couple, like, I think being willing to play just a couple different variations of something into testing just to help the other guys out. Like, there's a couple Dweg lists that I don't expect Bryan to play because it's not his style, but they're Dweg lists that I would like to test into, so I'll ask Bryan to play those into me because he is the best Dweg player that we have, and it's good practice. And so just that kind of stuff in general, like, I'll probably play a bunch of Ashen Dawn to get good at them, so that, one, I know how to beat it and how to pick apart the list, and two, I can help the other guys practice on it.
Will you play my list into them?
Sure, if it's good.
Okay. Ben, is it good?
I think it's solid.
There we go.
I assume it's solid. It's Ashen Dawn and Seal Temple. Like,
yeah, like
solid.
there's nothing bad about it, right? Like we have all of the units in it are good. So
Yeah.
There we go. You know it's coming, so. No, that's really good. Ryan, what are you gonna do for some practice between now and Adepticon?
Karl brings up a good point. We should definitely be much more varied in our what lists we bring into those practice games, just to get a, because the general strategies are always going to be relatively similar between one another anyway. So just figuring out those kind of little bits of minutia from matchup to matchup will certainly help. And obviously testing more scenarios than we did going into LVO. For me specifically, I definitely want to kind of look at what I think for some of my weaker plays in LVO and focus on those a little bit more. So being a little bit more adaptive with my initiates deployments, as I was talking about with Game 5, and leveraging. I think I'm still not leveraging my Drake deployments, including the Ironclad Drake, quite as well as I could be. So I'll be focusing on that in the coming weeks.
Sweet. And Ben?
I want to test. I really need to focus on my scenario testing. I've kind of been lax on it because I know them pretty well, and I knew them very well at Adepticon, but a few of them have gotten updates, and some of the scenarios, like Bulwark is of course a good example, like it was unplayable, right? And then it got updated, and it now is like much more playable. And then what was the one that had like 6 objective markers across 3 zones?
Oh, that's
Old Breakthrough.
Yeah, old Breakthrough. Like I need to test Breakthrough because I think I've played like 1 game on Breakthrough. So
it's playable
scenarios
now,
are really my big
and we
focus.
could see it. But yeah, like I don't think we'll ever see Divide and Conquer at a Parabellum tournament, like not Adepticon, because
Isn't that one
if I
still
use my
broken?
head. No, it's not broken, but it's got 6 objective zones. 6 inches, which means that if they want to play it at like Adepticon, they need 180 6-inch zones.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, so the ones that need 1 million zones are probably not going to be there because like they probably don't have the zones.
Yeah. I spent like 2 hours cutting out zone packs of 3 9-inches and 6 inches, 6 inches for 6 packs, and I gave like 4 of them to the store, and I keep 2 of them, and that was like 2 hours of my life just cutting out zones and tracing stuff.
I bought wooden discs. You can they sell them for like hobbying stuff or whatever, in 6 and 9 inches, and I just like spray painted them gray and then spray painted them with like that texture paint stuff
Mhm.
so that they look kind of cool. And it did not take me very long, but it costs a little more probably. I don't know
Yeah.
how much the neoprene costs.
I've used like some like foam mat stuff. It was like $1.30. It was super cheap to do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's super cheap. I spent like $50, I think, on the like 10, or it's like 12 of each zone or something.
Mhm. Oh. That's really it for all my questions and discussion. Cass, do you have anything for these guys?
I mean, I feel like the discussion was very comprehensive. So, unfortunately, you keep leaving me for last when all the softballs have been lobbed
You
and
can
swung at.
jump in whenever you want.
No,
Okay.
No.
no, it's yeah. I mean, it seems like we've touched on a lot here, so I don't know that I necessarily have anything to ask that wasn't kind of just covered naturally through the course of the discussion.
Do you guys have anything to say? Because I think we should wrap her up.
Yeah, I think that we should wrap her up. I think that's a good idea.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. I want to say a big thanks to our guests, Bryan, Karl, and Ben. You guys were fantastic. I hope you had a good time. I really enjoyed myself here talking about Elvia with you guys. Great discussion on the game itself, as well as breakdowns of your games and understanding your play and the level of play, what I really did enjoy. Ben, you wanna plug yourself? Because I know you run stuff.
Yeah, if you want to watch the three of us play Conquest, I put a weekly video up on the YouTube channel Competent Conquest, where we play a game and I basically just announce what happens and talk about the choices as it's going on, whether or not I agree with them, and what I would do differently, or whether I do agree with them and what I might do differently.
It's good. I usually throw it on and kind of have the TV running, listening to it while I play video games. I like his stuff. I will gladly endorse Ben in Competent Conquest and his crew of people he plays. I'll also throw in the description below Miniature Managers games where Bryan, Karl, and Ben all played on them, so you guys can watch those games. I watched the Karl and Ben one. It's really good. I would strongly recommend everyone watching that, and also I will watch Bryan and Ben play probably tomorrow. So I'll find out what happens there. But they already told me. The last little bit, Bonktable has a Discord. You can join us. The link's in the description below. You can then message Ben, Karl, and Bryan. They're all here. They're also on the international Discord, but it seems like they... I would say you have a more positive spin instead of Nord's chat here. And Bonktable's got a YouTube channel. Find Battle Reports there. You can even see my own games into Ben and Karl, where they kick my ass. So, Cassandra, you have an Instagram now?
Not on Instagram, but a Twitter. It's Bonktable Cast. This episode is being aired after the last one where I talked about it, so it's going to be really disorienting for people who listen to this. But please save me from the algorithm by following me so that I have things to look at that aren't whatever the fuck is going on that website these days.
Yeah. So, thanks for joining us today, and I hope everyone has a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Adios.